Hey everyone, how are we doing? How are we? Okay, let me just find my controls. Gotta bring that down. There we go. Do you want the lo-fi down, or do we want it off? I don't know, who knows? Who knows? Lots to consider today. Many moving parts. I got lots of guests on today. Right. So, today... Gosh, I'm excited, everyone. Today I am going to be reading a book. And I'm gonna have some friends along to help me to read, because I cannot do it myself. I never learned. Right, let me just tell them. So, the book we're going to be reading today, for those who haven't caught up and don't know, is this the theory thing I've been hearing about? Yes, we're going to read some theory. That's right. This is it. We're going to finally sit down together and just all learn some theory today. That's exactly what's going on. Okay, so today I have a few guests with me.
That's
Hello?
why the catchphrase for the series is "Gotta catch 'em all."
Hello?
Oh, right. That sounds... I don't know enough about Yu-Gi-Oh! To dispute that.
Can you all hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How are we all doing, pals?
Doing pretty good.
Good.
So why don't you all introduce yourselves? Jess and Mildred and Sam. Well, you all do kind of the jobs, right?
Sure.
1 sec, sorry, I'm just having slight tech issues.
Happens to the best of us.
Okay.
It's not left this stream without tech issues.
Hey, I'm here.
Wow, you look great.
Thank you. You're all YouTubers. Some more famous than others. Obviously, Jess, the most well-known of us, world famous, big celebrity.
Happy to be here.
You all know what book we're reading today. I haven't sandbagged any of you with it. I'm not. You can swear that I'm not surprising you suddenly with this. Oh wait, I've just been reminded. My partner reminded me just before I went live. I need you all to promise something, that none of you want to kill Caleb Maupin. This is really important.
Yeah.
This has been a serious concern, and we all need to be clear about this, that none of us want Caleb Maupin dead.
Yeah, and my heart goes out to him for the harassment he's suffered. Like, for example, when he talked about people recognizing him places and asking him to leave other places.
That does sound hard.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah.
I never wanted
I can't
that.
imagine.
For sure.
Yeah, nobody should have to go through that, quite honestly.
So, today, we're reading a book that Caleb wrote a while ago. And, well, I don't know. So it's called Satan at the Fountainhead, the Israel Lobby, and the Financial Crisis. Which is a title you need to, like, digest for a minute, I feel.
Yeah.
It's a special one. It's pretty interesting. There's a lot going on in that title. Mildred, maybe you have, like, more, experience with, like, has he... I'm unclear on what his defenses or, like, denials or anything around this book are. Like, I saw someone saying something, but I wasn't sure if he'd actually said it. It was a claim to do with, like... So basically, I'd heard that he wanted this book to be inaccessible because some people had told him that it could be perceived as anti-Semitic. Possibly. Have you heard that?
No, though I will say it wouldn't be the first time that Caleb has lent some of his considerable respectability to anti-Semitic talking points and figures. Famously, there's, of course, Alexander Dugin, who is absolutely an anti-Semite, and curiously enough, also a hardcore Zionist.
Yeah.
And there's Louis Farrakhan, he also expressed support for, but did qualify that support, saying that Farrakhan has, and I quote, said some things about the Jews I don't agree with.
Well, I mean, if he doesn't agree with them, then, I mean, that's,
There you go. Enough said.
that's something. That's something, isn't it?
And listen, I don't know. I like the guy. I don't like all of his opinions about whether or not the Holocaust happened. But other than that, I like the guy. What can I say?
He's doing better than Jay Electronica, so...
So, you know what? Why don't we just dive in a little bit? I'm gonna take us to, a particular page. Oh, I gotta find it. So there's a problem here in that, as I was alluding to already, Caleb doesn't want people to read the book, or maybe that's what's going on. The book is very expensive. It's currently, I think, listed on Amazon at $900. there was a very
That's
interesting...
a steal.
Yeah, I mean, that's value for this tasty read. There was an interesting thing I actually noticed was that Mildred and Lance did a stream together talking about Caleb a little while ago, and actually looked up the price on stream, and it was very expensive then, but it was $100 then, and he's actually put the price up since then. Now, if this is as I've seen friends of him claim that it's because he doesn't want people to read it, I don't know. Maybe his views have changed, or maybe his views are the same and he doesn't want people to...
Right.
Okay, either way.
I would maybe also, if my opinion changed in a book I had published, I might clarify that publicly and say like, hey, I wrote some shit I no longer believe.
I mean, I read his BreadTube book on stream a little while ago, and I don't know how much that you folks have read. It's not very edited. It feels very much like he wrote it in the sort of Jack Kerouac style of just like bang this out in 24 hours on no sleep.
Yeah.
So like I feel like it wouldn't be that hard. Like he's a fairly prolific writer in that regard, and so I feel like it wouldn't be that hard for him to issue some corrections if it was just that his views had changed, which that would be
right.
Fine.
The guy publishes 3 books before breakfast, so like he completely could. I know that in the BreadTube book he alleged that we are all funded by the CIA, BreadTube as a movement, but I haven't read it myself. I've only watched other people their breakdown. Sam, are there important notes that we should have on that? I mean,
not really. Like it's such a weird circuitous argument. Like there's it's very strange the types of people who he includes. Like there's people who it's you would obviously expect as main people to talk about in if you're talking about BreadTube. There's a lot about there's a big section that's just extremely feels very mean-spirited about Mildred, that's just publishing as much information as he could about you, where it's it's very much you get the feeling of if he could have doxed you harder he would have.
I'm just wondering, what do you think I did that made him mad?
I don't know, bud. It's a mystery. It's a mystery. You and he were such good friends before.
It's a shocking revelation.
Yeah.
The CIA thing, he talks a lot about Faraday Speaks, who is it's very strange to I have no problem with Caleb. I talked to him a bit, but it's also he's a bit of a strange person to include in a BreadTube who's who, but it's because through him he's able to make some connection to some guy who in some way worked with the CIA or was influential in something, and from there that's how he's able to make the whole connection.
So a lot of conspiratorial jumps around. Yeah. That's interesting. Would it shock you for me to tell you that this book functions in a somewhat similar way, jumping around from seemingly unconnected topics, implying that there is some sort of sinister network? Would that be a surprise? I don't know. Anyway, so as we discussed, the book is somewhat expensive, and the best we've been able to get our hands on is an incomplete scan of the pages. Not everything is there, and I mean this truly. If on the 20 missing pages, Caleb is the rest of this book is satire. Then I am just uncomplicatedly sorry. So I thought we could start with a section he called "What is Anti-Semitism?" Because I think that a lot of people's concerns going in here is going to be that this book might be anti-Semitic. And there's a section about that. There's a section about anti-Semitism. So we should get right in with that. See, that's the thing. I think if I were structuring this book and I were thinking about that concern, I might put that section quite near the start. To be I know that you guys are worried about. I mean, that's why I'm doing the stream this way around. It's on like page 269. Nice. It's very late into the book. Let's have a read of it. Okay.
Also, just it's always good when you have to define what anti-Semitism is
Oh,
in your
well-
book. It's
well-
a good sign.
Well, let's listen to
Good
his.
sign.
Let's see how he does it. Let's see what a good job he does. So, what is anti-Semitism? One mistaken and confused aspect of Zionist propaganda is redefining the term anti-Semitism itself. Anti-Semitism has been redefined mainly due to the work of Zionists. Sorry, I can't be doing the voice on every mention of Zionists, because it's like every third word in this book, but as a term referring to ethnic, religious, or racial bigotry against Jews, most people in the modern world use the term anti-Semitism with this simplistic definition. Let's learn some more about what anti-Semitism is. Historically, however, anti-Semitism has a very different definition. Anti-Semitism refers to a political movement that began in the 1870s in Western Europe. The anti-Semites argued that the reason for rising poverty as well as the decline of traditional morality was a conspiracy by Jews. The reason the word anti-Semitism was used was because the followers of this movement widely believed in the discredited pseudoscience called eugenics. The anti-Semites believed the Europeans were superior to all other races, and this superiority resulted in a higher level of morality. They believed that Jews lacked morality. Sorry, can I just interrupt myself to say, like, Caleb writes so fucking condescendingly all the goddamn time, which is really hard considering how wrong he is about a lot of fucking shit. It's like reading a bunch of factually incorrect stuff written in this tone that's like, you are a baby and an idiot. It's just like,
It's like an undergrad essay is the vibe I get from it.
Yeah, he's I'd love to see his sources and find out that they're all Wikipedia. There's an interesting thing, right, that talking about the history of anti-Semitism, and especially the history of anti-Semitism in Western Europe, one of the definitive texts would obviously be Hannah Arendt's On the Origins of Totalitarianism, where she talks about the fact that because Christians were forbidden from being moneylenders, Jews in Europe were moneylenders, and so every noble, every lord, all the aristocrats would have their court Jew who handled all their money for when they wanted to do wars and shit. And then it's a racist reimagining of the power structure that people looked at the Jews who had money and just basically put it the other way around. Instead of the king needs money and he gets it for this, it's like the king's Jewish treasurer is the one really pulling the strings. Is the really simplistic version of what Arendt says. It's interestingly absent here. I'm just pointing that out. I'm just quickly summing that up because it's interestingly absent here, and I would again have put that history there because it's important to understand how people who are going after the people in power can go wrong into anti-Semitism. This is why this is why people call it the socialism of fools, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, back on it.
I mean,
go on. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
No,
you. It's just sorry, just jumping ahead a little bit. I was just scanning the paragraph, and I was not quite expecting. This is an argument I've seen with some other people who have. It's a wild take that is just people accuse someone who clearly does not like Jewish people of being an anti-Semite, and their response is, "I'm not an anti-Semite because Jews aren't Semitic."
Yeah.
It's also a way of dodging the accusation, because what he's doing here is divorcing bigotry against Jews from anti-Semitism, so that when people say you're an anti-Semite, he can say, no. Even if I am bigoted against Jews, anti-Semitism is a specific political tendency that I don't ascribe to.
Right, absolutely. I'm talking about the networks of power around the world and how Israel is influencing things. Semites are an ethnicity from the Middle East, including many different peoples, not just Ashkenazi Jews. Yeah.
By the way, let me clarify. I'm not accusing Caleb at this point of being bigoted against Jews, although I suspect he may be.
Okay.
I'm merely saying that if I were in his position and I was attempting to make this argument, that wouldn't be the line of,
It's fascinating because I told my partner about this, and my partner, her mom's family is Jewish, and I mean, frankly, being the like centrist / chud that I was when I met her, she taught me a lot of social justice stuff, including like points on anti-Semitism. I read her a little bit of this. She was just like, oh, so it's a handbook for anti-Semites. So it's just a guide to how to deflect from accusations of being an anti-Semite then. Right, let me get back to this. So, high level of morality. They believed that Jews lacked morality because they were not white Europeans, but actually Semites, an archaic term for people from the Middle East. The anti-Semites, interestingly, did not only distrust Jews and consider them to be immoral, they believed that Persians and Arabs were also Semites and possessed the same proclivities. The goal of anti-Semites was to purge European societies like France, Germany, and Britain of Semitism. They sought to remove Jews and others deemed inherently immoral due to their ethnic heritage from positions of political and economic power. This stuff is all really interesting, and you should bear in mind that Caleb acknowledges the history of specifically tying, well, Semites to being immoral compared to the standards of Western Europe. Because in a couple of pages... No, okay, we'll get there anyway. Go on.
This kind of like, it kind of reminds me of like I saw a Peter Coffin post, good friend of Caleb Maupin's, they posted about how like Caleb Maupin can't be a Noswell because Noswells were like a specific political movement at like a specific time. Like it's the same argument of like, oh, this person can't be a Nazi. The Nazis were
yes,
like
it really really exhausting. Two
It's
notes
also
on,
a
go on.
completely like wrong argument because the Noswells are still a party.
Yes.
Like, there's been multiple parties that call themselves Noswells. There is one currently is led by the guy that Caleb spoke with, like, and he agrees with and capes for all the time.
Two notes on Peter Coffin. I believe in their bio it says any all, so they've changed that. But the last time I was publicly correcting people about Peter's pronouns, they called me a virtue signaling cunt. So maybe it's not that worthwhile. And second note, can I get some fuck Peter Coffins in chat? So let's carry on. The goal did that one. Right. Anti-Semitism remained a strong current in the so-called right wing of European society for roughly 50 years. Eventually, we will see this come back, right? So-called right wing. Like, I don't entirely know if he's just denying that the right wing exists. I don't... Anyway, eventually, in Germany and elsewhere, anti-Semitism merged itself with the political theory of fascism. Though Benito Mussolini, who coined the term fascism, had originally denounced anti-Semitism, the National Socialist German Workers' Party of Adolf Hitler, the British Union for Fascists led by Oswald Mosley, embraced the theories of anti-Semitism as an explanation for economic and cultural decay. And then I just want to like kind of skip along a little bit. Basically,
but hold on, he's not even bringing up like the Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion or like the Dreyfus Affair or any of like the actual historical antecedents of anti-Semitism.
Yeah, this is like this. It so does feel like educated from Wikipedia because it's so like there's just none of the actual history of anti-Semitism in this section whatsoever. The next section there is called Israel Distorts the Global Conversation, which is interesting. The extreme right wing, again, like, I just don't know. Anyway, where anti-Semitism
This was a big thing in the BreadTube book, where like he like very much was like very critical of like basically anyone who's like calling like calling like the like far right of like American politics Nazis or like fascist. There's like very much being like, oh, they believe in this like kept calling like the so-called like fascist conspiracy or like saying like, oh yeah, like the leftists believe in this like wild nonsensical like conspiracy theory that Nazis have infiltrated the American government, and like it's just so wild the amount of like defense he runs for actual far right people.
Yeah, this is a broader element of Maupin thought for sure, but it's like I noticed the way that he talks about anti-imperialism really similar. Like, he's doing this signaling to other fascists. He's just signaling to them without saying things explicitly. So he'll talk about anti-imperialism, and he'll be like, I will never disavow another anti-imperialist. And it's like, right, so you won't, as long as someone's an anti-imperialist, you won't disavow them for a genocidal regime, for bigotry, for just not being a leftist at all, for anything, right? And
But
who is an
They
anti-imperialist?
make fun of the way you say burger in a video,
Yeah, well then it's open season.
and all bets are off.
That's what I'm saying. And then if you can define who's an anti-imperialist, then it's up to you. So you're just signaling to everyone, I won't disavow you for the things other people will disavow you for. I only disavow people for pointing out the way I said burger. Okay, so the extreme right wing, where anti-Semitism found its political home during its height, largely rejects anti-Semitism in the 21st century. That's just a fascinating sentence. I'm just going to read it again. I'm just going to read that one over again. The extreme right wing, where anti-Semitism found its political home during its height, largely rejects anti-Semitism in the 21st century.
I have so many questions about this sentence.
Please, no, I mean, ask
Citation
me some
needed.
questions.
Okay, so first of all, we're talking about the extreme right wing where anti-Semitism found its political home. Okay, so we're talking about fascism.
Yes.
Like, that's very clear.
Yes.
Is that, you put that in quotes, is it not extreme or is it not right wing? I don't...
Well,
Which-
he already
is it
said
not
the
either
so-called
of
right
those?
wing, right? So does he just not believe the right wing exists? I don't know. I just don't know. I feel like I'm reading
Yeah.
the Rosetta Stone.
Why do we,
Yeah.
why do we gotta label everything? You know, like,
Oh my god, wait, is it going to be that they don't, like, they reject anti-Semitism because they're, like, Zionists? Is that...
Oh, Sam. I knew you would be a treasure to have on this stream. I knew you would be a
Oh.
treasure to have on this stream.
Oh,
Okay.
no.
Oh no.
The British National Party, the most powerful white nationalist organization in Britain, that's okay, not only rejects anti-Semitism, but actually supports Israel.
Yeah, okay. I could have read a sentence right there, but yeah. Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, you fucking nailed it. And that's not true. I've seen the
not
BNP
at all
talking
true.
about the Jews. I've seen them
Yeah, well, I mean, like, a lot of anti-Semites do support Israel because they think all Jews should be sent there.
because they're trying to speed run the apocalypse, because the evangelical thing is that if all the Jews get to Israel, then you level skip right to the final boss.
also
It's
just
also,
like,
I mean, they
you can
do
get
have,
them out
like,
of.
yeah, they do all. Yeah, they want to get them out of, like, Europe or whatever, and they also, real recognize real. They do have, like, a certain appreciation for a ethno-state,
Yeah.
that implements apartheid.
Yes.
There's also like I'm sure that at some point the BNP has come out and said, like, we don't stand for anti-Semitism in, like, a press release or something.
Right.
The same way that, like, fascists will always lie about
Yeah.
shit like that.
I
To take them at their word.
yeah, that's it.
They said they're not anti-Semitic. So
Does Caleb just believe what fascists publish about themselves, or does he just want his
Literally, yes,
audience
like,
to believe
yes.
what they publish about
Yes, he
I'm
themselves?
gonna
does.
go, like, just keep going back to, like, the breadtube, but, like his thing about, like, ContraPoints, his, like, problem with her was just how to recognize a fascist video, where his thing was like, oh yeah, like, these, like, so-called leftists are, like, completely paranoid. They're saying that, like, I'm not a fascist is exactly what a fascist would say. Like, from this logic, anyone can be called a fascist, and, like, it's amazing.
if that were the only way to recognize a fascist, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so he goes on through this section to basically talk about how Israel tries to position themselves as being as being, representative of all Jews, which is a real, that's the thing that Israel and supporters of Israel do. They try to claim that, attacks on Israel are anti-Semitic. That's true. But then he goes into this thing where he's saying about, where he says, throughout his entire existence, the main political target of the anti-Semites was not Zionism, but Marxism. Marxism, viewed as a rejection of religion and the traditional family structure, combined with its call for revolution, was considered to be the most dangerous incarnation of the Semitism these forces opposed. And then he goes on, I think it's on the next page. Let me see. Yeah, to say, within Israel itself, Marxism is almost non-existent. So he's kind of doing this strange thing where, like, okay, the right wing doesn't exist. It's the so-called right wing, the extreme right wing, in scare quotes like this. But Israel, who this whole book is about how you should hate Israel are anti-Marxist, and then there's no Marxism in Israel, and, right? It's kind of an interesting thing, because it's like, if you get that Caleb is what he is, which is a fascist trying to use the aesthetics of leftism, it's like, he's constructing this network of, like, the right wing and Israel as, like... Okay, well, I mean...
I'm not anti-Semitic. Actually, the people who are anti-Semitic are actually out to get me. That's what anti-Semitic means. Yeah,
it's... A difficult part is just to... It's worth acknowledging the way that, as we already have been, the way that the evangelical Christian right in America works in tandem with Israel. But, like, first of all, the most important thing to understand about their relationship is that it's America who's the center of the web, the where all the control comes from. It's America giving them money. It's all this bizarre, like, yeah.
Yeah, I was expecting this to be a bit subtler, where like one of the things that like is like a sort of a thing that like I see leftists like make a mistake and like do an anti-Semitism is when they'll sort of like be criticizing Israel but imply that like America is being controlled by Israel instead of the other way around. I was expecting like that type of like subtle forms of anti-Semitism, which like progressive people I like regularly see fall for. This is just wild.
But to be fair, we've jumped straight, nearly 300 pages in. There is a I don't know if I'd call it a slower build. I don't know. There's a weirder build throughout the rest of the book. It's weirder.
Oh, wow.
Anyway.
Yeah, this is like the end of the book. It's like 313 pages, I think.
I know, and that's what's so strange about putting the section, what is anti-Semitism, right at the end. Like, it, yeah. Anyway, so, where were we? Saying that there's no leftism in Israel, and this, and then I think I turned the page, and, wait, where were we? Sorry, I'm just trying to find the bit. There was a bit earlier where I was reading about this, and I was reading about, like, his claim that, like, anti-Semitism practically doesn't exist today, and Israel, and there's no Marxism in Israel, this whole section, and then I turned the page and I saw the Israel lobby and the triangle of evil as a heading, and I laughed so hard I gave myself a headache. Because I was just like, holy shit, what? I know we're late in the book, but he just isn't even fucking trying anymore. So this section reads, Zionists often maintain that the term Israel lobby is a code word for the anti-Semitic belief in an international Jewish conspiracy. They accuse all who speak of the power of the Israel lobby as secretly being anti-Semites. This argument is frivolous. Caleb, at this point in the book,
to go on to just immediately say exactly that there's an international Jewish conspiracy. Well, is that what's going to follow this?
That's a thing that, like, if you watch more of his stuff, which I cannot advise, he keeps coming back to, like, international bankers, and he says that, like, over and over again, and it's like a thing where, like, while he and his buddies try to claim that, like, they're the real materialists, they're the real Marxists. I mean, even besides the fact that, like, Caleb massively stands FDR and America generally, and just whatever.
That was so weird. I read that.
Yeah,
I was like, what is going on? Why?
Yeah. Even besides that, concluding that it's the bankers is the exact same fucking thing I was talking about with, like, Arendt's history of a totalitarianism. Like, it's just classic anti-Semitism, and it's incredibly anti-Marxist. Like, to conclude it's, like, the bankers at the top of the conspiracy. Anyway.
Also, he brings up this is the first time he brings up the idea of an international Jewish conspiracy. Didn't at all touch on that in his definition of anti-Semitism.
Yeah. The American Israeli Public Affairs Committee, AIPAC, is a very large, publicly existing, and a highly powerful institution. AIPAC functions with a budget of $67 million a year. It works very hard to convince the US public and US elected officials to hold a sympathetic view of Tel Aviv. Where does that money come from, Caleb? Who is trying to convince them to have a sympathetic view? Whatever, what the fuck ever. The Israel lobby has a base of fanatical followers who see Israel as infallible and celebrate its crimes as a sign of strength. I mean, that's true, but, like, this is the thing. Like,
Yeah.
you read him saying, like, just fair enough, true stuff throughout the book, and then you remember the title of the book is Satan at the Fountainhead, the Israel lobby and the financial crisis, and you're like, wait a second, no, you don't get to fucking apply true facts to a title like that.
Yeah, I mean, I thought when he was defining anti-Semitism, and he started out saying some Zionists like to reinterpret anti-Semitism to be, I thought he was going to say, to be anti-Zionism. But then he just sort of went off in a completely different direction.
The guy needs an editor desperately. However, if the Israel lobby would be weak if it operated alone. If the Israel lobby were not in alliance with other very powerful entities, it would not have the strength and the ability to impact policy as it currently does. The US government's blind devotion to Israel at the expense of its own domestic population and the Palestinians is not only beneficial to the Israelis. It's like, what the fuck is this?
What?
He's literally, like... Go on, Sam.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is where, because, like, yeah, like, a lot of the stuff before this, it's, like, wouldn't have phrased it that way, but, like, there's, like you were saying, like, there's absolutely, like, truth to, like, the fact that, like, AIPAC does have, like, a lot of power in the U.S.
Right.
Like, yeah, like, the way that, like, when, like, Ben and Jerry's was, like, did the bare minimum of, like, stopping sales within, like, occupied territories, that, the, like, I forget his exact title, but like a Israeli person who like worked for like the Israeli government and like is like a lobbyist, I think, in America, was like, we are going to implement like you know, like that is like kind of a fucked up thing for like a foreign government to be like, we are going to implement like national policy in America. That's weird. But, like, the idea that it's, like, the U.S. is, like, somehow tricked into supporting Israel. I mean, like, there's a speech that Joe Biden gave in, I believe, in Congress where he's saying that, like, if Israel didn't exist, the U.S. would have to make an Israel. Like, Israel does have, like, certain amounts of, like, policy power in America, but it's because America... It exists.
It's because they're part of the same fucking organism. Because Israel is a white supremacist fucking settler colonialist state in the Middle East. It's a fucking outpost of American imperialism. It's not. It's so frustrating.
It'd be like saying that like weapons, like the military-industrial complex, like weapons manufacturers tricked America into weapons manufacturers having power in America. It's like, no, they have power because they serve America's interests.
Exactly. It's like I mean, not to do too much of a diversion, but like I was curious about like the kind of state of Twitter leftism a little while ago. I did this poll that was like, who do you think is more powerful, like states or businesses? And a whole bunch of people were answering that it was businesses. And like, it's a moot point because like capitalist states will never fight against businesses. They're on the same fucking team, but like, no, that's the wrong way around. Anyway,
I mean,
so...
like, the question is essentially like saying like, like who's more powerful, like the left hand or the right hand?
Exactly. Well, yes. Yeah, exactly. Well, it's like, who's more powerful?
It's
the
not
brain.
The best analogy.
Yeah, like, whatever. Anyway. So then there's a rundown of some of American imperialism, some of the exact stuff that we're discussing here. And then a few years after the Iranian Revolution of 1979, US President Ronald Reagan declared we can never allow a revolution in Saudi Arabia. The overthrow of the Saudi monarchy would indeed mean a huge loss for Wall Street banks and oil companies with whom the Saudi regime has collaborated and cooperated since its inception. With its huge military arsenal, including hundreds of nuclear weapons, Israel can effectively enforce the economic hegemony of Wall Street and London over one of the most vital natural resources in the world. Yeah, he's getting it more the right way around here. The entity driving U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East can be described as the triangle of evil. If you want to, sure, buddy.
Some good materialism right there.
Oh, yeah. We'll get to some more good materialist language in a minute, and then we're going to have to do a huge backtrack to the rest of the book. Anyway, the big oil corporations who seek to maintain a monopoly on the world markets, the manufacturers of weapons and military hardware, and the Israeli government's network of supporters around the world have formed a very powerful alliance. That's the triangle. That's what the triangle is. Now we know. Now we all know. On Wall Street, one can often find all three of these special interests combined within single banking institutions. Chase Bank, for example, is the primary owner of ExxonMobil, the huge oil corporation. Chase Bank also holds dominion over the General Electric. What holds dominion over is just like... oh, baby. Okay. General Electric, one of the top Pentagon contracted corporations with which manufactures weapons and other equipment for the U.S. military. In addition, through its ownership of General Electric, Chase Bank controls MSNBC, a TV network that is noted for its pro-Israeli bias in coverage of world events. The Israel...
How does he think banks work?
Jesus. The Israel lobby is a dangerous group of crazed extremists and racists. The core of it, who are Zionist Jews, see themselves as racially superior to others and actively advocate Sam's face is amazing! Actively advocate and practice crimes against humanity. The Israeli government, with its proxy forces in the United States and elsewhere, is just one of one section of wider cabal of criminal profiteers. We got it! He said the word. He said cabal.
It keeps starting in a way where I'd be like, again, like, wouldn't phrase it that way, but like, this isn't totally wrong, and then just immediately, like, just goes in the...
What are we, 48 minutes into the stream? We can just wrap it up, pals. We did it. Anyway, okay. Israel itself is an integral part of the machinery of international finance.
Jesus Christ!
Israel is part of a world order called Imperialism by leftists and globalism by right-wing nationalists.
Those are not the same thing. Holy shit, he's literally synthesizing in real time left-wing and right-wing talking points. In real time.
Okay. In which bankers in London and the United States have absolute unchecked economic and political power. Israel is not simply an evil entity in itself, it is part of a wider, global cabal. It's shocking! It's a shockingly fucking anti-Semitic book. It's like... I think people are genuinely used to, like, us dealing with Caleb Maupin and being like, let's unpack a little bit what he did there. But this book is just a spicy meatball.
Yeah.
So, and this is where we get to some more of this very good materialist language. So let's learn about what drives the forces of destruction.
Oh, good.
If we put aside the notion that the unfolding global conflict and continued US support for Israel is driven by a Jewish conspiracy, or by a clash of civilization. You okay, Jess?
There it is.
Let's put that aside for now.
Put a pin in it.
Yeah,
Just put a pin in it, okay? Just put a pin in it. Okay. or by a clash of civilizations, we are left with the remaining question. What drives the international financial elite to continue their crimes? What drives the global cabal to perpetuate its destruction of the lives? Do you really think some friends pointed out to Caleb that this might appear anti-Semitic to some people?
It's also like, that's such a dumb question, because if your theory is that they get a lot of money for doing it, then that's what drives them. They want the money.
Right.
What are you talking about?
Right.
Like, you're not
Right.
raising a question.
If we were doing some good Marxist materialism here, we could be whatever. But we're not. We're just reading a fun book. The key to understanding the forces that control and perpetuate Israel. Okay, so maybe Israel isn't the top of the pyramid here, right? Okay,
Right.
and
It's
have
more like a triangle. The pyramid is a bit different.
True, that's a good point.
Completely different.
And have economically destroyed the lives of millions of people in the United States can be found in the writings of Zionist and Wall Street propagandist Ayn Rand. Her anti-moral viewpoint, with which she trained Alan Greenspan to become one of the most powerful figures in the global economy, is presented in her many books, including the novel Atlas Shrugged. In the pages of Atlas Shrugged, there is a lengthy passage designed to refute the words of Jesus Christ and others in the Christian Gospels who speak against the worship of money and usury. The passage in Rand's text proclaims, "Until and unless you discover that money is the root of all good, you ask for your own destruction." Yeah, Ayn Rand was fucking unhinged. That's not a hard, like, that's an easy win. This is low-hanging fruit. But he goes on to describe.
Also, just one thing though.
Yeah.
To specifically tie the evils of Israel to like an inversion of Christianity strikes me as like also a pretty anti-Semitic thing. Like, if they could just follow the Christian Gospels and the morals therein, we wouldn't be in this problem.
We're getting close to the bit where we need to jump back and start his section about Ayn Rand over, because he talks about Ayn Rand a whole bunch earlier in the book, and it's just like, wait, what the fuck? Like, you are just picking like random Jewish people out here. Like, it's so anyway. In the section titled "Struggling for the American Identity," which doesn't look like anything to me.
Probably avoid the word struggle in this one.
Well, I think,
Yeah.
he could reword it and maybe say something like, like something about our children and like a future for them or something. I think that would sound less problematic. Because everyone loves children. There is another passage in Rand's satanic text. There is another passage in Rand's satanic text. I forget that Caleb's a Christian. That's the thing that I forget about him, and then I read. There's another passage in Rand's satanic text, Atlas Shrugged, which is disturbing. I've read Atlas Shrugged. There's a lot of passages which are disturbing, but yeah, anyway. A few sentences prior to her proclamation that money is the source of all good, she proclaims, "If you ask me to name the proudest distinction of Americans, I would choose, because it contains all the others, the fact that they were the people who created the phrase, to make money." Can I just say that this is part of, like, Ayn Rand's American nationalism? Like, she was hugely, like, an American nationalist, and a whole bunch of her writing is, like, explicitly, like, America is the best place on earth because it's the most capitalist. Somehow, this is why, again, it feels so strange to find her having been plucked as a prime example for this book about Israel, and him just refusing to acknowledge that it's actually, America again and again. Anyway. Within the statement, Rand articulates one of the biggest crimes the forces of darkness have perpetuated. Rand was not born in the United States. She was a Russian-born Jewish atheist. She worked to overthrow the most beloved US president, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. She has no grounds to define what it means to be American. Neither does Milton Friedman or any of the adherents of the market cult.
Fucking Rand. Oh my god! Jesus.
Is this satirical? Like, is this like a bit? I don't understand.
This is what I'm saying. If on the 20 pages that we don't have access to, Caleb writes, these are all examples of something an anti-Semite would say, then I completely apologize.
Why is the fact that she is a Jewish atheist relevant to whether or not she is American, Caleb? Why did you specifically include that in how she can't speak for Americans?
Huh? What? That's a I don't quite This is like some of the place where it gets like the most naked of any of the book. It's just like the vitriol with which you write she was a Russian-born Jewish atheist. It's so fucked. Like, it's...
Oh my god, just the desperate simping for Franklin Delano Roosevelt just comes out of nowhere.
FDR pops up again, yeah. She worked to overthrow the most beloved U.S. president, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. She has
By the way, if we were to ask FDR what his proudest accomplishment was, he says it's saving capitalism.
Yeah.
The New Deal. So.
Yes, exactly. It's so... Yes! This is why I've been saying this a bunch recently.
Not the internment camps.
Right, yeah.
Yep.
This is why I've been saying this a bunch recently, that, like, America could easily fucking transition towards being a social democracy or even fucking socialist on the back of exploiting the fucking rest of the world. And when Caleb is, like, going around simping so hard for FDR, it's like, that's not anti-imperialist. You just want to, like, you want to make America, like, raise its standards of living for Americans, you know, for good Christian Americans and not for Russian-born Jewish atheists. Like,
the concept of being at once an American nationalist and an anti-imperialist is, like, so self-contradictory.
I know!
It just makes no sense.
This is what also gets me about his particular beef against like the debate bros. It just feels like a dog barking at its own reflection, because like when you actually get down to like their economic politics, they're identical. What were you gonna say, Jess?
Why is he so interested in defending the definition of what it means to be an American? I mean, I kind of know it's because he has this very authoritarian view.
It's because he's a fascist, yeah.
Words have like one specific meaning, but
yeah. Well, it's because he's a fascist is the reason. Right, so
incredible.
Through the deceptive propaganda of this. Oh, carry on, Sam.
Sorry, like one other thing is just that, like, I mean, I feel like this is the thing. This is also partially just like my theory about, but like I think that like a big part of why, like the whole like bringing up people like being Jewish, I think a lot of that comes from this desire to remove people from a certain canon while still being like very often I've seen like Marx being like introduced as like Jewish for no reason that like serves the context, because Marx is part of the Western canon, but like by saying he's Jewish, it's a way of othering someone without like acknowledging that, and that's exactly what this is.
It's bizarre, like so much of the stuff that he's leaving out when he's talking about the history of anti-Semitism is just the exact stuff he's doing here when he talks about international bankers. That's the stuff he's talking about when he says the conspiracies of 1870. Like this Jewish-born, Russian-born Jewish atheist, like you say, is just like exactly when he says like the biggest focus of anti-Semitism was anti-Marxism. Well, leaving aside the actual statement itself, like. The one of the main fucking things that people focus on is Marx being Jewish and it's anyway. So the next paragraph reads, just gonna bring the level down. Okay. Just calmly go into the next paragraph. Through the deceptive propaganda of the Zionists and neoliberals, the very identity of the people of the United States has been redefined and wrapped up in the worship of capitalism. Which, is just a normal cool and normal thing to say. America has become synonymous with free markets and private property. America has become?
Right, that's what I'm thinking is like, when has an American identity never been wrapped up into like capitalism?
The Zionists.
It was the Zionists. Yeah, exactly. The answer, Jess,
when
is
did
before
they do
the
that? Could you put a year to it? Like, I honestly, no idea.
1903.
1776. They've been behind the scenes the whole time.
1945, the year after the death of our beloved Franklin Delano Roosevelt. He wasn't around to stop him.
1 point.
Jess just said when did that happen?
Yes.
When Israel was founded and
Yeah.
FDR lost.
Yeah, that's what she was saying as well.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Private property. Though the majority of people living in the United States see themselves as being concerned about their fellow human beings, wanting the government to care for those in need, a deceptive propaganda campaign has convinced millions that somehow capitalism and selfishness is genetically built into the people of the United States. Yes, but from who, Caleb? Apparently it's from the Zionists. I just want to preempt some of this because, like, if Caleb's pals, like, take notice of us, like, talking about this, like, they're going to talk about the fact that he explicitly is referring to the Zionists as if that isn't just the word that all fucking anti-Semites use for the Jews to try and look respectable.
Yeah.
I don't mean to be yelling so much into my mic, but this section of the book is it's beyond belief. Like,
How does it specifically advance the cause of Zionism to convince everybody that America is synonymous with capitalism?
Gives more power to the international finance system.
Yeah, and then the triangle of evil will funnel the power back to Israel
Triangle.
at the top of the triangle. No, wait, one of the corners of the triangle. It's a triangle. It's not a
They're all
pyramid.
top.
I forgot about the triangle. Thank you for.
You should always remember about the triangle of evil at all times.
You should close your eyes and see the triangle.
Okay. US media, owned by big banks and corporations, projects this image internationally. Around the world, people have come to believe that the behavior of Kim Kardashian, Paris Hilton, and the Real Housewives of New Jersey is representative of the American people. Yeah, man, I fucking hate women. US media does not show the millions of Americans... The millions of Americans who look at their TV screens in disgust and bemoan the state of unfolding cultural decay.
So according to Caleb,
Straight up, like the bulk have been corrupted by the lies of the
Isn't
Zionists.
it? Fucking isn't it?
he
Literally
seems to be suggesting that those programs are not popular in the United States. They're only produced not because anybody likes them, but to project an international image of vapid Americans.
as propaganda to control people and to control the image of America, and all Americans hate them. It's just holy fucking shit.
This does not sound at all like he's describing an international Jewish conspiracy. I gotta give him credit for that. Not at all.
It's an international Zionist conspiracy. It's
Don't see
completely different.
how anybody could confuse that.
But Sam, you're completely right. Like, it is literally like degenerate art has corrupted the Volk. Like, is literally what he's fucking saying. U.S. media does not highlight the millions of Americans who volunteer in soup kitchens to feed their hungry country folk. That's true, and they should, absolutely. Sure, Caleb, there should be a show, a buddy cop show about two guys feeding homeless people. It would rock. U.S. media does not highlight the mass movement of anti-capitalist, anti-racist youth who battle the police in the street, taking great risks to oppose injustice. Yeah, man, Marx wrote about this. It's a thing called class interests. They don't want to. They don't want to show the people who are opposing them having wealth because they want to keep having the money. It's not complicated. It is true that the origins of the United States were with selfish, racist settlers who slaughtered the indigenous people and enslaved millions of Africans. It is true.
Oh boy, I can't wait for the twist. I can't wait for the butt. I sense a butt coming.
Okay, this whole paragraph will be "It is true that." That's what these sentences all are, and then we're going to start the next one with a however.
However, so I am.
Yeah, the however is
paragraph,
coming. The however is coming. Okay. It is true that the government of the United States has been dominated and controlled by wealthy billionaires and ruthlessly taken many lives. Can I, again, it's just, even on that level, it's the other fucking way round. Like, the billionaires and the United States government are on the same fucking team, but, like, Jeff Bezos is not more powerful than the United States government, and if he were, like, in office, it would be his office that was the more powerful side of what he was doing, not Amazon. Okay. It is true that wars, suffering, and many injustices are propped up by the United States, and that the passivity of a large amount of the US public has allowed these crimes to continue. However, this is not the entire story of US history. As the indigenous people were being slaughtered, among them rose heroes like Chief Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse, who rallied their people to fight back. During the enslavement of African Americans, there was Harriet Tubman, Nat Turner, and Frederick Douglass, who broke the chains, fought the slave masters, and demanded an abolition of human bondage. Among Christians, there was a strong movement of abolitionists, risking their lives and taking up arms against the slave plantation system. Do you understand who comes at the end of this list? Are you following me? We got Sitting Bull, Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, Caleb Maupin. That's where this is going.
It's also like the only reason that those people had to stand up is because of the oppression of the American government. Yeah. This is the drill tweet about drunk driving kills lots of people, but it helps other people get to work on time, so it's impossible to say whether it's good or bad.
Yeah. The Morgans, the Rockefellers, the DuPonts, and the Rothschilds have not been allowed to carry out their crimes untouched. They have always been struggling to keep their power and continue their crimes against a large section of the US society that has battled against them. Against each of their plunderous wars, there has been a people's movement for peace. Against each effort to repress people, there has been a mass uprising demanding civil liberties and democracy. The men and women who built the United Auto Workers and occupied their factories, the black revolutionary fighters like Malcolm X. I'm just imagining Malcolm X and Caleb Maupin hanging out. What a cool time. And the Black Panther Party. The young people who braved tear gas and rubber bullets in Ferguson, Missouri, and the thousands of young people who occupied Zuccotti Park in Lower Manhattan during the fall of 2011. That's where Caleb is inserting himself into the thing. He always tells people his whole CV, his whole resume of activism, just a really normal move. And Occupy is always the biggest thing. So him putting Occupy in here, it's just exactly what I said. Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, Caleb Maupin.
Yeah. Malcolm X, Black Panthers, Caleb Maupin.
Exactly.
Yeah. The end of the Breadtube book, it is his entire life story. He literally ends it by being,
it is.
Here's my entire life story, and it's all about how, he's the only true revolutionary, and it's amazing.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, let's, it was from this America that Franklin Delano Roosevelt drew his strength and was able to pass many great reforms. And UK Mildred, is there? You got a comment on some of that?
Just he sees this, man. I hope FDR reads your book.
It's just like I'm a fucking anarchist and I know Lenin better than this fucking guy. Lenin, it's like FDR as an agent of the fucking state, was trying to resolve class tensions when he was putting that stuff out there. Like you said, like, his greatest accomplishment was saving capitalism by implementing things that made the working class calm down and not want to behead anyone.
Well, not only that, as Jess mentioned earlier, he put people in internment camps.
Right.
Like, it's weird to like go like Malcolm X and the anti-abolition movement, and then the guy who would like fucking rounded up Japanese people and put them in concentration camps. Like,
Yeah.
you're fucking serious. He represents the other America, the other side.
Jesus Christ. Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to think about what that means for his opinion on concentration camps, but let's just blaze forward.
That's a grimacing emoji. Right. It was from this America that Franklin Delano Roosevelt drew his strength and was able to pass many great reforms and fight the economic royalists. It was from this America that the civil rights movement was able to overturn Jim Crow apartheid in the South. It is this America that filled the streets during the summer of 2014 to stand with the Palestinian people as Israel unleashed its killing spree against Gaza. The only hope for this other America, the America of common people fighting against evil, to awaken once again and perform the miracles that it has proven itself to be capable of. Okay. So I want to go way back to earlier in the book, and I want to talk about, and I want to just like run through some of the earlier stuff that he's done. So I'm gonna take a second just looking for the right pages, because I find the way that he like starts to introduce Ayn Rand and then Milton Friedman to be utterly like fascinating. And also I think it'll be interesting to see what he's like earlier on in the book. Like, you will notice that the rhetoric really steps up. Like, we're going backwards here. You're going to see it get like a lot more subtle. I'm going to go into context.
These are the pages that I read, and it's it is different, but also it's still like all lying under the surface.
Which America did he publish the book in? The two.
I'm guessing the good one, right? I mean, that's where he lives.
Has to be the good one.
He
That's
lives.
the one of the common.
Well,
people.
He lives in the good one.
At $900, I can't imagine it's the good one.
Oh God. Right, here we go. So I'm going to go to a section called Alyssa Rosenbaum Comes to America. which is just a fascinating move. And if people aren't following along with what I'm saying, what I'm getting at there, okay, here we go. Alyssa Rosenbaum Comes to America. He's deliberately using Ayn Rand's given name to highlight that she's Jewish.
Oh.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
I know, it's an interesting little like, I do not like that I've been put in the position of defending Ayn Rand from anyone at any time in my life, but this sucks so bad.
I would say that, like, among the criticisms I would level against Ayn Rand, and there are many, probably wouldn't say that she is the tip of the spear of a Zionist takeover of the United States in order to make it into a capitalist country.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I mean, I think it was fairly capitalist when she got there, just reasonably just a smidge capitalist. Alyssa Rosenbaum, who would later...
Sorry, what page is this? I'm just trying
Oh,
to follow along.
sure thing, bud. It's 101.
Okay.
And the file ends 180055, if that helps too. Alyssa Rosenbaum, who would later be known to the world as Ayn Rand, was born in 1905 as the oldest daughter of one of the wealthiest families in Tsarist Russia. Her father owned many factories and rented apartments and had found a way to maneuver himself into the circles of power, while the Tsarist government, including the military, within the Tsarist government, including the military and aristocracy. It's just a normal way to write about people. It's just normal. I love how normal this writing is.
Father, worm tongue.
Oh God. The time period in which Alyssa Rosenbaum, I feel like I'm reading someone dead naming someone right now. I hate it, actually. Anyway, the time period in which Alyssa Rosenbaum was born is considered to be a dark historical period for Russian Jews. The Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion, so here we go, it doesn't get a mention in What is Anti-Semitism, but it does here in the section about Ayn Rand, was published by the Tsarist government, and many anti-Jewish riots called pogroms took place in response to its publication. I just would have described it slightly stronger than anti-Jewish riots. Slightly.
I would also go into what it is and why it led to those riots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting that he just says that it was published, and then people were like really mad about the Jews and had some riots.
I mean, like, in any other book, you could take for granted that the person saying this meant that, like, publishing this book was what made it a dark period. Well, in this book, there are some eerie parallels between that book and this one.
There's an interesting thing, I think, going on, right? Where, okay, so he does say that it was published by the Tsarist government, but he also said that Ayn Rand's father had, like, wormed his way into the Tsarist government. And then he's saying, like, they published this book, and then there were all these anti-Jewish riots. And you, a good materialist who knows your history, will know, of course, that, only 9 years after Ayn Rand was born. Shit, I'm fucking it up again. Only 13 years after Ayn Rand was born, was the Russian Revolution. So, you could say he's presenting a narrative. You could say he's presenting a narrative in which people were having these anti-Jewish riots, and then eventually they rose up and they overthrew the government to create communism.
I don't know about that, Sophie. I mean, like, because in order for that to be the case, you would have to see some evidence of him saying that some sort of Jewish ideology was the opposite of Marxism.
Yeah, that's true. You know what? Only on page 101, so far through the book, only on page 101, we haven't seen that. So, there we go. So that's just not the case. I guess you're right. Okay. Most Russian Jews lived in segregated villages, and many suffered extreme persecutions. However, the recollections of the Rosenbaum family during this period are not of extreme hardship, but extreme luxury and comfort. In the recently published biography, Goddess of the Market, Ayn Rand and the American Right, members of the Rosenbaum family describe servants waiting on their every need, so much that a family member never had to fetch her own tissue. This is like an ongoing thing, which is a prominent feature of anti-Semitism and always has been, selecting the good Jews and the bad Jews. He is describing how most Russian Jews were facing persecution, but Ayn Rand's family, and then there's a few missing pages there. So we get along.
Credit to that biographer. They did get Caleb Maupin to type right without it being in quotation marks.
True. Good point. Good point. So unfortunately, the scan is incomplete, and so we skip about 20 pages there. Right. And now we're talking about Neo-liberalism as U.S. foreign policy. Despite such horrific...
What does he think quotation marks mean?
It's been suggested in the chat that he thinks quotation marks are the same as triple parentheses, and I think that might be... they might be on the money there. Despite such horrific effects for the population, Friedman's swift implementation of free market economic policies resulted in massive profits for Wall Street, with no labor or environmental protections, and the leaders of the labor unions exterminated. The profits of US-based... Your face did a fantastic thing there, Mildred. The profits of US-based copper mining corporations soared. The rapid transition of Chile toward a model similar to Ayn Rand's unknown ideal of capitalism became the model for neoliberalism in Latin America. It's just an interesting thing, like, because because again, someone who's a materialist and an anti-American imperialist, I feel should understand that there is a difference between like free market capitalism in America and what Pinochet was doing in Chile. Like a smidge of a difference, and that it was okay. In events that Pinochet supporters call the war, the country had been militarily conquered and forcibly integrated into an empire that calls itself the world market. All barriers to international finance had been torn down. Though Friedman and Pinochet justified their policies with rhetoric denouncing Marxism and communism, Naomi Klein's, holy shit, he's read Shock Doctrine? The way he was talking, I was feeling like he hadn't. Naomi Klein's widely...
He might have read it. He certainly hasn't understood it.
Naomi Klein's widely reputed study of Friedman's shock doctrine practices argues that Marxism was not his primary target. The main enemy of Pinochet and Friedman was not adherents of Karl Marx, but those of Juan Perón. Perón's government in Argentina, which had been virulently anti-communist, also had... Oh shit, I forgot. This is the problem with the incomplete scan. A lot more of it towards the end is just complete, and you can read page to page really easily, because the person who was scanning this was highlighting particular pages, the ones where Caleb is being... He's writing with a particular fervor, and towards the end of the book, it's a lot easier to just read page to page to page, because every sentence is like brimming. Anyway, more about Friedman. So, Friedman in Tel Aviv is an innocuous enough title. Milton Friedman's career as an economic advisor to government officials also made a lasting impression during his brief direction of the economic policies of Israel. Milton Friedman had always been a supporter of Israel and Zionism. His family of anti-communist Jewish immigrants had raised him with a Zionist perspective as he grew up in New Jersey. I love that so much. Good for him, man. Just fab. Just yeah, hell yeah. His anti-communist Jewish immigrant family. It's particularly highlighting the immigrants, I feel.
Yeah.
It was not until 1978, however, that Friedman was able to become a key player in Israeli politics. In response to an upsurge of Palestinian resistance and support for the Palestinians internationally, the Israeli Labour Party, which masqueraded as a socialist party, carried out Israel's crimes under the cover of humanitarian and leftist rhetoric, declined in popularity, and was pushed out of power. In 1978, the administration of Menachem Begin took power on a hardline, militaristic, no-compromise platform. So many quotes. But to be fair, at least that one is quoting someone.
Yeah, I think when it's not quoting someone, I think it really is functioning as triple parentheses. The book makes a lot more sense if you read it that way.
Honestly,
and like I think
yes.
there was a point like earlier on where he uses like when he's like quoting something, he uses like single parentheses instead of double parentheses to there is a textual difference.
Oh shit, I've just dropped it. One sec. Cool, here we go. At the time when the United... Oh, wait. Yeah, this is the one. Okay. So who was Menachem Begin? Begin was Begin was member of the Revisionist Party. This guy really needs, just one proofreading. This was the thing earlier with the stuff about Ayn Rand's satanic text, Atlas Shrugged. He was saying that she doesn't have a right to say what makes someone American. And I'm just like, come on, buddy. Member of the Revisionist Party and its armed faction Irgun. As Irgun fighter, Hillel Kook waged a public relations battle against Franklin Delano Roosevelt in the United States. He's not gonna fuck you. His comrade Menachem Begin was in Palestine engaging in bombings, assassinations, and kidnappings. At the time when the United States and Britain were aligned with the Soviet Union in a fight against Hitler's Germany, Begin and the Revisionist Party and Irgun considered themselves to be Jewish National Socialists. This is an interesting part of the history of how fucked up Israel is. That there were Israeli, there were Nazi-Zionists. it's not something that should be handled by Caleb Maupin. It's not a piece of history that Caleb should handle.
Just need to take a quick bio break.
Okay. Considered themselves to be Jewish National Socialists and considered Nazism helpful to their cause of creating a Jewish state by making Europe less safe for Jews. They celebrated Hitler's slaughter of communists and social democrats, which they saw as the main political opponents of Zionism among the world's Jewish population. Again, it's like... Okay, I guess one of the things I'd point out, and this is, you'll partly have to take my word for this, is that, like, across the book, there's not a lot of differentiation between schools of thought within Zionism. Like, that like, you know, some Jewish people believe that Jews as a persecuted group have a right to a state. Some people tie this to religion. Some people believe that that state should be Israel where Israel is. And furthermore, some people believe that that state should be Israel as it has historically existed, right? And then even within that group, you have a smaller group still, who he's describing here. But I'm saying, like, across this book, there really isn't a differentiation between any of these schools of thought. And so it's like, Zionists, just broadly, may as well all be the Jewish National Socialists who considered Nazism helpful to their cause, blah, 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 this stuff. It's quite, not great.
No, it's this is it's very it's very fucked up. It's very not great.
It's also implying that they caused the Holocaust.
I would say there is
It cannot be skimmed over that he's implying that they caused the Holocaust.
There's definitely an element of him saying that.
On purpose.
He is saying it was helpful because it made Europe less safe for Jews.
Yes.
It's like
yeah.
And where
it's.
Go on, Sam.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's very similar to the way that, like, he was, like, talking about, like, the, like, Russian Revolution, where he's, like, framing, like, you know, like, as you were saying, like, the like, the good Jews who were being persecuted versus, like, the bad Jews who were, like, involved in the government, where it's like, you know, like, completely, like, missing the fact that, like, you know, very many Jews were involved in overthrowing the Tsars. My
Right.
great-great-grandfather was involved in that.
Wow.
And had to flee Russia to avoid trial. But
Shit.
It's just very bad, and fuck this guy.
Mildred, while you were away, what we just read was that the Jewish National Socialists supported Nazism because it made Europe less safe for Jews, and Natalie just came over to point out, like, it shouldn't go unsaid. He is saying that they caused the Holocaust. I mean, yeah.
I'm not like a history scholar. My understanding was the opposite of that.
Yeah.
I thought it was about, like, oh, they're saying that they'll help us move,
right,
and have a homeland. Not that, like, they want to specifically accelerationist style make Europe more hostile to Jewish people.
Yeah. The short version is, yeah. I just don't know what to say to it, because it's literally like, yeah, that's it. I'm trying to find... Okay, so at the moment I'm trying to find a page, but I can't quite find it. So I'm sorry if anyone knows this and my memory of it. Oh, no, hang on a sec. I think I found it. It's just a short bit, and it's just the text where it says on page 267, Palestinians, Iranians, the Syrians, and the youth of the United States have a common enemy. They also have a common destiny in joining together in a struggle for liberation. And I just thought, like, that was one I wanted to touch on, just because by the Syrians, he doesn't mean the Syrian people, right? And by the Iranians, he doesn't mean the Iranian people. He's referring to their governments, right? He's actually, he means it's a sadism. It's more of his, like, I won't disavow any anti-imperialists. I think we did the Ayn Rand and the Milton Friedman stuff.
I'm beginning to suspect that Caleb Maupin isn't a history scholar either.
What? Huh?
That's just the feeling I'm getting so far. Just
I
you
don't
know.
I don't know, Jess. I saw a pretty convincing cartoon on his YouTube channel. Makes me think otherwise.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. He
Well, I
knows
mean,
all
I'm not
about
a
it.
history scholar either, so I mean, who's to say who's right here?
So I think we're going back to more or less where we were before, towards the end of the book now. So we're on page 290, I think. Yeah, 290. Where he's saying the consequences of such a war breaking out among nuclear powers would be catastrophic. Sorry, we've skipped too much of the previous context there. So I'm going to start the new section, which is called Envisioning a New America. Go on.
That opening sentence. Oh my God.
Yeah, this is what I wanted to. This is some of the stuff that I really wanted to get to. This is so this stream kind of started coming together when I was just really curious. I was like, because I saw, and again, fuck Peter Coffin. I saw Peter Coffin defending Caleb, specifically defending this book by being like, people are criticizing this book, but none of you have read it. And I was like, okay, well, I'll just fucking read it. And I downloaded this set of images, this set of scans, and I read this sentence. I messaged Mildred and I was like, hey, should we do a stream where we read this book? Because so envisioning a new America. The greatest hope for defeating the international cabal of bankers who maintain the existence of Israel have destroyed the US economy and moved the planet towards catastrophic war lies with the unfolding resistance within the borders of the United States.
I'm liking where this next paragraph is going.
Can I take another quick moment to just point out that Caleb, I don't know that Caleb denies climate change, but in places where it would make a lot of sense for climate change to go, it's noticeably absent. So I just want to quickly run over that one again. The greatest hope for defeating the international cabal of bankers who maintain the existence of Israel, that's their first crime, have destroyed the US economy and moved the planet toward, and you're like, okay, being on fire, the fucking ice caps melting, the sea levels rising, all of us fucking, the crumbles, right? Catastrophic war, because that's what the previous section was kind of about, was that he believes that, a big war is coming, and it's like, what?
This whole thing about the Jews being responsible for a catastrophic war, I've heard this somewhere before.
Yeah.
Some sort of war now, I think, maybe what he's alluding to. Anyway.
That's my struggle, trying to remember that.
That's my struggle, too, yeah.
Right. Well, I can't wait to hear how we avoid that.
He's saying something, the Jews, some sort of war now. I feel like there's some kind of... It'll come to me. It'll come back to me.
I want to point out something in case people are wondering why I keep responding as strongly as I do to the word cabal. And for those that don't know, the etymology of the word cabal is it literally comes from the word Kabbalah, the Jewish mystical tradition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the idea is that the Jews are practicing their secret magics in private, and it's a secret conspiracy of Jewish wizards doing magic and looking at numbers weird, and that's where the word comes from, and that's why I keep responding the way I do whenever he says it.
It's like one of these words. Go on.
I will say this. I think that it would be giving him a bit too much credit to say that he knew that.
Yeah.
However, it's giving him exactly the right amount of credit to say that the word cabal is used two ways in the English language. By anti-Semites talking about Jews, and by people talking about how anti-Semites talk. Like, it is literally the only other way that it is used is when I'm, like, alluding to someone like Caleb Maupin being a fucking Nazbol, and I'm like, he's a communist. He hates this cabal. It's the only... Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say that if he doesn't know that origin, he at least subconsciously has that relation. There's no way that he doesn't see the tie in those two different, Judaism and the word cabal.
That's what I'm saying. It's just not a word that comes up in other contexts, and when it does, people are like, "Hey, whoa, what?"
It's even telling, like, in the text itself, like, he generally is, like, he's using it very specifically, like, in relation to, like, bankers, and, like, just where he's using it, it's very clear that, like, he knows where it's supposed to be used.
Yes! Yeah. Yes. It's like, I'd love to have more commentary, but it's just like, that's it.
Yeah.
There's only so many ways to say, like, look how goddamn anti-Semitic this is.
Exactly. I almost wish I'd done the slow build-up first, but, like, it's the rest of the book is kind of boring. Anyway, so, okay, so, Envisioning a New America. We're just going to start again, and I'm going to go straight into this one. I'm just, no breaks, here we go. Envisioning a New America, the greatest hope for defeating the international cabal of bankers who maintain the existence of Israel, have destroyed the US economy, and moved the planet towards catastrophic war, lies with the unfolding resistance within the borders of the United States. During the 1930s, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt aligned himself with a mass movement of everyday people. He was able to push back the forces of greed and win many great victories. He led the United States to align with the Soviet Union, Britain, and many countries around the world to oppose the menace of fascism. Prior to his death, Roosevelt proposed a new Bill of Rights. The law he proposed would have guaranteed all citizens the right to a job. Roosevelt's final speeches emphasized the importance of establishing the freedom from want. He emphasized that the horrors of fascism in Europe were perpetrated because of the hunger, homelessness, and other horrors caused by the unrestricted capitalist greed. He's just not gonna fuck you, Caleb.
Yeah.
Does the font size... part of me wishes I had the book, but I don't have $900 to spare, sadly. Because I keep on these scans, it keeps on looking like the font size changes sometimes, but I'm sure that's just a weird scanning issue. Sorry that my absurdly picky nitpicks. Roosevelt represented... Sorry, go on.
Caleb believes that the only hope to overturn this global order is within the United States.
Yes.
There's only...
Yeah.
The only way that anything can be done about any of this is specifically if American resistors stand up.
Which, again...
Nowhere else.
Like, I don't want to... Okay.
Very anti-imperialist.
I'm not looking to drag more of our beloved comrades into drama here, but, like, Vorsh has a very, like, American-centric fucking, like, view of things, right? And again, when there's the particular beef between Caleb and Vorsh, I'm like, but you guys just believe the same stuff, except for Caleb being a Nazbol. Like, except for the stuff Caleb says out loud, proudly, you guys agree on.
I mean, like, it kind of reminds me of, like Caleb and I think, like, Peter Coffin and Vosh are all, like, very against, I did a video about Steven Pinker recently, and so, like, I read a bunch of Jason Hickel, who's written a lot about degrowth, which I would definitely argue is not the best name for what he is proposing. Like, there are lots of ways in which, like, you can frame it in a way that is much more palatable, and I think also in a way kind of more accurate.
Right.
But it is essentially arguing that, like, there are ways in which, like, the economy needs to be slowed down and shrunk instead of expanded in order to, like, fight off the threat of, like, climate change.
Jess and I read Bill Gates's book the other day on the stream, and, like, so even less involved political theory, like, you know, in that, he, like, one of the earliest things that Bill Gates, well, it was ghostwritten, it wasn't actually Bill Gates, but, you know, one of the earliest fucking things that says is, like, during the pandemic, we're actually doing the stuff that we need to do to fight climate change, because there's barely been any, like, the economy has been at a standstill, and it was just like, yeah, we just need to slow things right the fuck down. Like, it's pretty basic, honestly. It's pretty...
Yeah, I mean...
He's also, as much as he will protest against degrowth, he will also, like, in other times, talk about how Marx thought that capitalism inevitably leads towards overproduction.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Seen him talk about that in videos and streams.
Yeah.
One of the things with, like, Hickel, too, I mean, I think kind of notably is that, like, you know, his focus is very much on, like, raising the living conditions of everyone around the world with like policy, like, he advocates for policies like an international minimum wage, democratizing the IMF in terms of, like, population size instead of just, like, countries' wealth, things like that. And, like, it is very telling, like, that, like, you know, Caleb Maupin views the way of, like, views everything through, like, a purely America-centric thing, that, like, yeah, that would be at the expense of the rest of the world to do those types of things. And, like, that's why he's, like, against these types of policies that would help globally rather than just, like, nationally.
Yeah, literally. And
I think that's also why he doesn't talk about climate change, I think.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what I was going to say, that he doesn't mention climate change, and it's like... When he is particularly worked up about degrowth, I wonder if he believes in climate change. Like, as I say, I haven't seen him, like, really go for it denying climate change, but when he tries to, when he tries to accuse you, Mildred, of being a Malthusian for promoting degrowth, I'm like, but what about fucking climate change? Are you kidding me? Like, what? Like...
It's also like his belief seems to be that this very strict historical materialism, where the only way to achieve socialism is for every country to do exactly what China is doing and ramp up their industrial capacity more and more and more, which inevitably leads to, like, a greater excess, and that makes everyone richer. And then when everyone is rich, then it's communism,
right?
Which it's like it's
right.
cataclysmic in practice. Like, it's good that people are getting lifted out of poverty in China.
Right.
It's very bad that in order to do that, there had to be a lot of pollution, self-evidently.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If only we could get FDR to come back and institute full world communism.
It's like the Simpsons gag of, like, Lenin punching out of his glass case in the mausoleum and coming back, but it's FDR instead. For no reason. Like, it's the exact same bit in the Simpsons, but it's FDR who wakes up instead of Lenin. And everyone's just like, yeah, communism, FDR!
Also, isn't his criticisms of Milton Friedman that he stripped, like, copper mines of environmental regulations?
Yeah.
Does he square that with, like, his support of states that do exactly that?
Well, I think that it's exactly like this is what I was saying about him, like, signaling to people, because, like, fascists don't care a lot of the time when people say the stuff that directly opposes them, because they know that most people find their views entirely unpalatable. So someone saying, like, I don't want to kill all the Jews, it doesn't rule them out as a fascist ally. Doesn't rule them out as a fascist ally to fascists, to be clear. Like, fascists are like, well, that's how most people talk, and they could just be lying and be one of us. So it's like he'll just casually drop out things like stripped away all the environmental protections, but then it's like, this is what I mean. I just want...
Right.
I'm not saying that he denies climate change. It is a pure curiosity for me. Caleb, if and when you see this, please let me know. Do you believe in climate change? I'm just remembering now that you're a liar, so it doesn't matter. You will never tell me. Never mind. Shit.
I 100% guarantee he is watching right now. 100%. There's not a doubt in my mind. He is watching this.
Can I throw out a hypothetical related to your earlier point? So hypothetically, if you did want to sort of, like, still express those views that you know are a little bit unpalatable, and you were doing that through a book.
Oh, yeah?
Now, in this situation, would you put the unpalatable stuff sort of towards the beginning, or, for instance, on page 278?
Well, yeah, I mean, if the book was only 300 pages long, I'd probably put it, like 5/6 of the way through, roughly. Mm-hmm. Or exactly 5/6 of the way through.
Just hypothetical.
It's a hypothetical, yeah, it's a good hypothetical. No, speaking of hypotheticals, when I was watching that stream with Mildred and Lance the other day, part of my research for this, there was a clip where Caleb said, if he was talking about, like, he doesn't want to be popular because something, I don't know, I can't remember his justification for why being popular is bad.
Well, if he wanted to be popular, he'd talk about sports and have a bunch of naked ladies on screen.
Well, he said if he wanted to be popular, he would make porn. That was the thing he said. But that's not what I'm trying to focus on. I'm trying to say, he said, if I wanted to be popular, I would say different things about what I believe. And I just thought it was so fascinating that he was like, if I wanted to be popular, I would lie about what I believe in. Kind of telling, right? Like, I think that, like, my beliefs, like socialist beliefs, like accepting trans people, opposing racism, I think these beliefs are popular, and I don't need to lie about them. But Caleb said, if I wanted to be popular, I would lie. And I was just like, huh, that's interesting.
It's also, I mean, that is especially interesting with, like, the way that he talks about, like, the real Americans, like the real, like, Americans, like, actually believe all the things that I believe.
Right, which is another way to phrase the popular fucking QAnon mantra of the silent majority.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
You know, like, not to put too fine a point on it, but once again, kind of the Vogue.
Yes. Right. Okay. Back to this. Back to this beautiful book. As Jess has been saying, what is it? 313 pages
total. That's what I was seeing on the websites that sort of detailed that.
Although those websites
book,
also said that the book is published in 1758, so who knows? Okay, but I think we can just read, like, from here through to the end. So I'm going to push on. Roosevelt represented the closest thing to an anti-monopoly government that has ever existed in U.S. history. That part is just fucking fascinating because it's like, so are free markets good, Caleb? Is it monopolies are bad and more smaller businesses is what you'd prefer? What do you mean by that? What are you talking about?
Socialism is capitalist. The problem is that it's corporatism.
Right. Okay. Roosevelt was a president who was not accountable to Wall Street and thus able to soundly reject its project for creating Israel. Now, 8 decades later, as the U.S. economy is once again devastated by economic royalists, it's triple parentheses. He's just using the quotes instead of economic royalists. The mass movement of resistance must begin working toward the establishment of a new anti-monopoly government, a government that represents the unemployed, the low-wage workers, the black and brown youth. Okay. As well as the millions of formerly middle-class Americans who have been dispossessed must take power in Washington, D.C. Such a government...
class, huh? Middle class.
Yeah.
Very Marxist.
That's an interesting one. That is an interesting one. Mm-hmm. Like some sort of movement of, like, not the haute bourgeois, like not the established bourgeois, but like a smaller bourgeois, like a movement of the petty bourgeois is what he's advocating. A movement that cares about seizing power. I'll come up with a name for that one. I'll get back to you. I think that's he's onto something with that one. I think that a movement of the petty bourgeois who want to seize power, that could be good. That's a good one. That's communism, right? Such a government would prosecute the criminals who perpetuated the financial crash of 2008. It would shut down the system of prisons for profit and use government funds to create jobs. A massive program of public works could reconstruct the United States, giving it a strong infrastructure and improving the lives of its people. So sort of like a work program Like a really big... Maybe he'll give them all bread as well. A bread and work program could be good, I think.
Any of this have to do with Israel?
This is envisioning a new United States. This is exactly
It's
like
also-
Sam was
it's
saying
just-
about
it's just
the...
so- sorry, I was just like, it's so weird of like, who is this for? Where it's these are not, what I would think of as like particularly like Marxist reforms. Like, I'm not, like totally against things like, the government doing good things while we still have to deal with capitalism. But at the same time, it's like, this is obviously not a book that's meant to like appeal to libs. Like, why are you like,
It's
real
almost
communist
like-
revolution is a jobs program.
It's
like,
almost
what?
like he wants a government that comes in and does promote a kind of capitalism, like the state promoting capitalism. So what have we got so far? We have like he's a socialist, but he's also a nationalist, and he wants a movement of the petty bourgeois to seize power in America and promote capitalism, but like a state capitalism. These are all features of something historically, and I cannot for the life of me remember what.
Should be a kind of socialism for the real Americans.
That's it. Right.
Real Americans.
And I bet he could make jobs for them open up from somewhere. Probably by prosecuting the criminals who perpetuated the financial crash. That's a good start. Like, those criminals don't need their jobs, right? Anyway.
You know what? I feel the worms in my brain crawling around, and I think I understand this, actually. So the reason why it has to happen in the United States is because two legs of that triangle are here in the United States: the military-industrial complex and the base of the international financing, right?
Interesting.
So how do you take it down? Well, you have to be here in the United States, and you have to get this movement of the middle class to rise up and take down those two arms of the triangle.
Yeah, and
But
then
to sum up,
yeah.
sum up. What we need is a socialism for the people of the nation.
Well, yeah, a
That
nationalist
will
socialism.
overthrow the corruptive influence of the perfidious
of the
Israel
Israelis.
lobby,
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
secretly control the arms manufacturers and media.
Yep, they control it. Yeah, that would be good, I think. That would help us out.
Have I heard this before?
That's what I'm saying, and I think that economically what he's proposing is really similar to some kind of historical society. Shit, man. It's just, I'm blanking so hard. An anti-monopoly government in the United States would shut down the military bases all around the world and use the money instead to provide healthcare and education to the population. Massive government investment would be used to fund productive scientific research to cure diseases, repair the environment, there it is, and develop technology to improve the quality of human life. The arts would also be subsidized and promoted in order to ensure a new, vibrant cultural revolution. But we know that there's some kinds of art that he thinks are promoting degeneracy. But he wants to funnel money into good art. Okay.
But like, no, it wouldn't. An anti-monopolist government wouldn't end U.S. imperialism specifically because there's no monopolies in America. I think that would cause
This is what I
pull out
mean.
the military bases.
Is he promoting free markets or is he promoting communism? Like, is he a Marxist-Leninist? Is he a fucking materialist? Or
He's an authoritarian suckdem. It sounds like.
Oh god. Popular control of the economy would ensure full employment. Full employment. Cool, nice. Major industries like steel and auto manufacturing would be revived under public control and ownership. Auto? Wait a second. Yeah, auto manufacturing. Cool.
How did we get under popular control over the economy? How did we move from specifically anti-monopolist to full-blown socialism?
It's fascinating.
Well, I guess that just naturally follows that an anti-monopoly government would implement popular control over the economy.
Of course, yeah.
The right of workers to form labor unions and collectively bargain would be protected, which is just like, but wait, don't they don't you want the people to control the government? Okay.
Yeah.
Like talking about committees or like syndicalism is one thing, but being like, we will make sure you have unions to fight against the power, which is you. Okay.
I just read ahead and oh my God.
That's why you gotta not do it, because it just gets you. It just hits you too hard like this. Okay, let's carry on then. The concept of working poor would eliminated, with legislation and government oversight ensuring that all who work full-time will have a substantial income. Why not just fucking not have people, whatever, fucking, okay. Like, the shit that Marx has covered here to do with people working less because it's a... Anyway, the military
disabled people also.
Right, a full employment program, and it's like, actually, I want people to not work. Okay, policing agencies would be subject to community control and regulation. The military would become democratized and transparent. The kind of miraculous transformation that has taken place in Venezuela, Bolivia, Iran, and other countries that have ripped themselves free of international capitalism would begin to unfold in the United States.
Miracle of Iran. Famously great place to live.
Oh God. The government would work to politically empower and involve the population, and a network of community organizations and popular militias would be established. It's just... Whoa, wait. Political education.
Where did that come from?
Political education would take place across society with... This is something I have seen. That is something I have seen Peter Coffin and Caleb Maupin openly ridicule when it's come from leftists. I have literally seen leftists specifically talking about the history of racism and the way that people would need to be educated and make sure that everyone fucking understands the history of colonialism and racism, talking about political education, and Caleb Maupin and Peter Coffin fucking ridiculing it. And here in his fucking book, he's like, political education. I guess it must be some different kind of political education. I don't know about you guys.
But why would you phrase it with those sinister terms? Those incredibly loaded terms.
I know. Okay. And this is also another thing, by the way. Like I forgot to mention this earlier, but speaking of shit that like I've seen that the whole crowd ridicule. They ridicule the book Settlers a bunch, and particularly just like a whole, like in a broader stroke, they ridicule like people talking about colonialism, just more broadly. And the whole way through this book, if you do read the whole thing, and again, do not, it's like just a basic understanding of Israel as a settler colonialist, white supremacist project on behalf of American imperialism would solve the entire issue. And it's so frustrating that this same fucking dipshit is... okay, all right. Okay. And media, which is accountable for its content to the community, not corporations, advertisers, or donors, would become dominant. Now, that sounds to me like the media would have to, well, you could think of it like the folks, the folks in the country, the folks, and what's best for them would be what was allowed in the media. It feels to me like that's what he's kind of suggesting. Because of the central position of the United States in the world economy and its vast natural resources, this change would have a dramatic global impact. I'd say, buddy, it would lead to a surge of independence and diplomacy around the world, with the threat of catastrophic war no longer looming over the human race.
At any point, is he going to like talk about the day of the rope? Is that coming up, like...
Oh God. A new government in the United States which prioritized the needs of its people would spell the immediate end of the criminal existence of Israel. For the peoples of the Middle East. I know, it's like a, okay, we all can fucking agree that there are people who've been displaced by the colonist project, the inherently racist project of Israel. But we can also agree that for some number of people who are there now, the solution is not to just like fucking push them out again. Like,
just as it's not the solution for the United States. which is similarly built, and Canada
Right.
for that matter,
Right.
built on legacies of genocide.
Exactly. There's a lot of people who it's not their fault that they are there, and they didn't create this project anyway. For the peoples of the Middle East, it would be the beginning of an entirely new chapter of their history. The efforts of Western bankers to destabilize this part of the world, where I don't think that's who fucking did that, Caleb! You fucking asshole! I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep it
Jesus
together, but it's not the
Christ.
fucking bankers, is it? It's not the fucking bankers who destabilized the... Oh, god damn it. Okay. I'm sorry, I gotta just take a
No,
breath
yeah.
here.
I mean, don't bankers benefit from stability in nearly all cases? Isn't that just like a
Well, his
relatively
reasoning,
universal truth?
his reasoning here is it's the military-industrial complex, which, like, yes, people do profit off of war, like,
He's
you
not
know.
saying the military-industrial complex. He's saying bankers.
I know. That's what's so fucking frustrating. But then he also says that the banks own all the weapons manufacturers.
Oh, that's
so-
right. I forgot that the banks owned the weapon manufacturers. Sorry.
Right.
Right.
Move on. I
Yeah,
apologize. I forgot about
that's
that.
part of the triangle. You have to remember the triangle of evil.
I can't believe I forgot the triangle. I'm sorry. It's on
It's
me.
like-
I'll do
Don't
better
make me
next
tap
time.
the sign, and it's just the eye. It's just the triangle with the fucking eye. It's just that's the sign. I'm just like,
And for the record, triumvirate of evil would have been better
There you
phrasing
go.
than a triangle. But does he think the motivation is for the bankers? Because he seems to be implying here that it's all part of this like racial superiority. Like they just have this nonsensical ideological project of enforcing this upon this global hegemony over the world for no reason.
he is
Like, he doesn't-
implying
I don't-
that in a struggle for racial domination, the Israel lobby are using the banks and the triangle of evil to make sure that they racially sit on the top spot in the triangle of evil.
Yes.
It's literally like
And
What the
I would
hell?
think that a more materialist analysis might be that banks, which famously they like to make money. That's kind of a thing they do. Maybe the reason they invest in arms dealers and own MSNBC is to make money.
yeah,
Maybe.
yeah. There's a thing that occurred to me the other day in terms of like the really, really conspiracist logic of Caleb and his pals, which is that they talk often as if like people who are accepted at all into the mainstream, like people who they dislike and who they want to say are bad, right? And this is part of like the CIA bread tube shit. That like capital will never allow people to allow leftists to be popular. So if you see a leftist being popular, they're not a threat to capital, so they're not a real leftist. And it's the most fucking bitter, like, excluded from the cool kids table nonsense you've ever fucking seen. Because again, I am an anarchist, but it was Lenin who said, the capitalists will sell us the rope, etc. Right? Because they just want to make money. Like, if you see a big organization platforming leftists, it's because they've noticed that leftist has a big audience and they want to make money off of them. It's like this is the most anti-materialist shit. The most anti-materialist.
Walk into any bookstore in the United States, you will find copies of the Communist Manifesto, Capital, the Shock Doctrine,
State and
which you cited
Revolution.
earlier.
Yeah. Yes. Fuck. Okay. I gotta keep on trying to bring it back down because it's getting me so fucking worked up. This screed. Okay.
This is so much more than I thought it would be. I thought
know,
it would be
that's why
bad.
I
had
messaged you.
no
I was
idea.
like, you guys, you gotta see this. Like, that's why I brought in Jess last minute. I was like, you just gotta see this. This is just you gotta be
is
along for the
unbelievable.
ride. Okay. The result would be a new global order based on respect for the sovereignty of all nations and public accountability of economic institutions. which is just about the most cryptic sentence in this fucking book. And then the last scan we have, maybe this is the last page, maybe there's sources or something. People in the United States who are awakening in these increasingly turbulent times must begin to envision a new country for themselves and their children. When they do this, they are not alone. Almost all of humanity is now rising with the same aspirations and fighting the same common enemy.
Oh my god.
Those are the fucking words this book ends out with! He fucking said it! He fucking said it!
I just have the number 14 in my mind for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah. Wow.
You know how when you analyze media, you start with what's at the start of the piece of media, and what's at the end of the piece of media, and that's how you decide what the story they're trying to tell is.
Yeah.
What's the title of this book?
Satan at the Fountainhead, the Israel lobby, and the financial crisis.
Right, and what's the last line of this book?
We must protect our children. Almost all of humanity is now rising with the same aspirations and fighting the same common enemy. I just gotta take a minute. Like, if you all have things to say, like, fucking... now's your... fucking...
Yeah.
I don't mind saying it. I don't mind just saying it. Caleb's a fucking Nazi. Caleb's a fucking fascist. Caleb Maupin. Caleb Maupin, who is watching right now. Hi, Caleb.
Yeah.
You're a fascist, is the thing. That's the thing about you. Based on this book right here. Jesus Christ!
Yeah. It's I didn't realize that it seems that Caleb Maupin believes that Israel, not the United States, is the what's the you call it in an arch where there's the one stone at the top?
Oh, the keystone.
Keystone of global imperialism.
Yeah. Does very genuinely seem that way.
Someone in chat says, in before this gets clipped with the right side cut off. Fucking... the length, yeah, exactly. The lengths he would have to go to like try and call this libel or whatever. It's there. Everyone fucking, the page is there. Okay, that's him saying it. There, he fucking said it. And he made this book $900 because he doesn't want people to know that he's a fucking fascist. Jesus Christ. Oh.
Yeah. I had something more fun to say, but honestly, I think it's better we just sit with this.
Hit me with your comment, please.
Yeah.
I'd be really interested to hear his FDR conspiracy theories, because earlier in the book he says that FDR was the closest to making an anti-monopolistic government, and then he says if we had an anti-monopolistic government, this is what it would do. It would institute communism. So I'm wondering, like, does he think that FDR was going to move us into communism? And two, does he have a conspiracy theory about his death because of that?
Well,
that's what I would be interested in.
He was saying that Ayn Rand was, like, a fifth columnist trying to overthrow FDR. That was a big
Oh my god, did Ayn Rand kill FDR?
I mean, I don't, like... he did,
I mean...
Go on.
Sorry, I one thing I'm just kind of curious, and I'm like sort of skimming this. I found I don't know, chapter 8 is interesting. We don't have to like really cover, but just it's
what page
about
are you looking
usury. It's page 206.
Okay, I'll find it.
It's like it just begins with a bunch of like biblical quotes about the.
Oops, I accidentally found the heading
Israel
Unmasked. Sorry, I'll go back to. I'll just chapter 10. Oh, chapter 10, the coming revolt. Cool, love that. Yeah, Mildred, you were just asking if he talked about the day of the rope. I mean, anyway, let's go. Jesus Christ. Sorry, I'll be 1 sec. I'm just getting page 208. Was it?
It's
Chapter 8, Usury as a global system. Thou shalt not lend upon interest to thy brother, Deuteronomy 23:19. He actually starts a lot, maybe all, but like a lot of the chapters with biblical quotes. Which
cool, very cool.
Cool. Yeah. So we've got Bible, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln. And if you lend to those from whom you expect repayment, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners, expecting to be repaid in full, but love your enemies, do good to them, and lend to them without expecting to get anything back. Then your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High, because he is kind to the ungrateful and the wicked. And Thomas Jefferson saying, I believe that banking institutions are more dangerous to our liberties than standing armies. Oh, God, I love this.
That phrase,
I'm just like,
usury as a global system, it's like...
I mean, fucking, like, there's a good way of approaching this shit. It's looking at debt. David Graeber's Debt, the first 5,000 years, talking about, like, debt as the chain that fucking binds the world is completely accurate and is a very good anthropological analysis of the history of the fucking human race through the different ways that fucking debt has been used awfully, and why maybe money is just kind of a mistake, and we should become Mushroom Wojak.
Is just like this whole. I'm on page 210. This whole, like, the bottom paragraph is just all in triple parentheses here. The House of Rothschild, the British wing of which was one of the primary promoters of the ideology of Zionism, is considered to be the first pioneer of international banking. The Rothschild family began to spread its money and influence across the planet, most definitely with the finance of
the Suez Canal in Egypt on behalf of the British Empire. Oh God, holy shit. Governments began to be widely indebted to private bankers. Banking institutions in Western Europe and the United States became the most powerful forces on the planet, nearly dictating government policy, with all social forces accountable to them. He literally is saying that it's the banks who control the governments, and he's been very clear about who he thinks the banks are. Fuck.
No, it's fucking wild. I don't know. I don't know if we need to go into it. I am kind of curious to what extent he thinks the Jews caused the housing crisis.
Well, that's kind of the fucking premise of the book, Sam. Like that's right. It's called The Israel Lobby and the Financial Crisis. Like,
of course, yeah. I mean, I don't know. It just seems like so much of this, we were sort of talking about this earlier, it seems like he has this kind of misunderstanding of, the way that, capital functions, and the way that it's deregulation has pursued short-term profits over even just long-term financial stability has been lost to just making as much money as possible in the next quarter, and that has led to a lot of problems where it seems instead of that he believes that any financial crimes or whatever are part of a Jewish conspiracy to upend the global order and institute racial hierarchy.
Yeah, and then when he fucking describes what his good world is, it's go on, Jess, sorry.
It is extremely interesting that when he's talking about all of these banking institutions, he's talking about them in terms of families, in terms of houses. And also ethnicities where that applies. So he's the Italian banking dynasties.
Well, he keeps on houses. He keeps on talking about Jewish immigrants as he's what's the thing called? It's the second dual loyalty thing, right? It's he's implying that Jewish immigrants are fifth columnists there to usurp the state, the nation state. This is actually just really classic. Oh jeez. Yep. Should we read a bit from here? I'm happy to go for a little while, so
sure.
Okay. The major I'm going to read the section, the major financial players. By the early part of the 20th century, the wealthy railroad, steel, and oil capitalists that existed in the 1800s have been completely subdued. He just changed tenses, whatever.
What?
Competition
What?
among
The oil
industrialists.
capitalists have been subdued?
It's a. I know. This is what's throwing me so hard about all of Caleb's writing is that like I don't know why this is my tendency, but like I am just so invested in what a shitty writer he is. Like he did just change tenses and change back again in 2 sentences. Mildred, you're on the money with like actually looking at the facts he's saying and how they're wrong, but I'm just like, what the fuck is this sentence?
Like, I mean, again, it's the same thing of like his problem with like oil capitalists and like like capitalism in America is that there's not enough competition. Like, what is literally this is crony capitalism is what he's trying to talk about.
Yeah, he's talking
here.
about monopolists. A handful of
reason we don't have socialism
monopolies
is because someone has shut down all the railroad tycoons who were building it.
Again, sure, monopolies are bad. It's better when there are not monopolies. But also, like, that doesn't get you to like communism.
This is a huge quotation marks as triple parentheses moment, because this is where, right, I was saying at the very start of the stream, right, like his writing feels so condescending because he'll be saying things like a handful of monopolies as if you never heard that term before. But what he's actually saying is a handful of monopolies began to emerge within every major industry, and the monopolists, that one needs a quotes too, began to centralize their efforts in banking institutions. By the 1890s, the forces of wealth and power in the United States were almost exclusively concentrated in the houses of finance, with industry existing under their dominion. Chase Bank, one of the most powerful banking institutions in the United States, is a concentration of the 3 richest families in the United States. The House of Rockefeller, the House of Morgan, and the House of Carnegie have all centralized.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You literally just got through saying
houses of finance.
Literally just got through saying that they were subdued, and now you're saying they control everything. So did they subdued themselves?
Yeah, they have all centralized their power into this single financial institution, but apparently they've all been subdued.
Wow, it's almost like they're strong and weak at the same time. I don't understand what that could possibly mean.
I'm rereading and I'm like, okay, so actually maybe what he's saying here is by the early part of the 20th century, the wealthy railroad, steel, and oil capitalists have been subdued, right? Competition among industrialists was gone. So he's saying that like the capitalists and the industrialists were good, and that now the monopolists have come in, and now there's no competition. So that's who was subdued. Was there was something about these capitalists before?
Crony
something
capitalism.
Something about those ones.
Real capitalism. This is crony capitalism.
No, but follow me here, right? There was something about the guys who like were involved in the founding of America, the capitalists who were around when America was founded. There was something good and cool about those guys. They were good American capitalists. But then shortly after, these monopolists came in, and there's something bad about them. And it's not them being wealthy, it's not them being capitalists. Like, this is how similarly he described them, that we couldn't tell the difference between who he was talking about when he was like, the oil capitalists, the monopolists. We thought he was talking about the same fucking people. But literally, it's because there's a quality of one group that the other group doesn't have that makes the one group bad. Right?
Yeah.
The Italian banking dynasties, who originated in violation of the Catholic prohibition on usury, have set up shop in the United States. Beginning on the West Coast in the early part of the 20th century, these forces now have established the highly powerful Bank of America. Is Bank of America quotes now?
Also, just the idea that like he has to call out that they originated in violation of the Catholic prohibition and usury, as though like benevolent Catholics tried to stop them, but swore the Italians
those traditional
violated
Catholics,
their rules.
back when people had good morality, those traditional Catholics, they wanted to stop this. That's the thing.
I don't understand. Does he want to return to the Papal States? What is he saying
Catholic.
here?
Oh, sorry. I just found something. This is just going back to, I think, page 209.
Sure.
This is very interesting. This is the middle of the page, the second paragraph. He says, the person who has borrowed the money, however, must labor in order to pay back the lender. The lender collects interest, which is the result of someone else's labor. When someone enriches themselves, not through their own efforts, but through the efforts of another, this is called exploitation. Like, the fact that, like, this is... The banks are doing exploitation, but the capitalists are not.
Yeah, is this the sum total of exploit? Is this his definition?
Exploitation is when it's when the banks, or the triple parentheses banks do it.
Hold on. In addition, when someone cannot pay back a lender, they become indebted to them. If they have to pay them back, they were already in debt. Just doesn't make sense. He just doesn't understand how anything works.
There's an interesting thing, right? In just back to the early 12th or 20th century, the wealthy railroad, steel, and oil capitalists, blah, blah, blah. Like, there's an interesting thing about that, which is that, as I said, I've read Atlas Shrugged, and a big part of the first couple of acts is Dagny Taggart complaining about, like, how, because the book is incredibly reactionary, she talks a whole bunch about Nat Taggart, her grandfather, who was this good railroad capitalist who, like, completely dominated the industry and, was, well, from her perspective, she's calling him a wealthy capitalist, right? But she is also there's also a whole back and forth throughout the book about monopolists and people trying to stop people from being monopolists. And it's just, like, it's bizarre because it's, like, the same exact, like, language being used to perpetuate this delusion that, like, your guys are good for absolutely no reason. And it's so interesting to me that he brings up Ayn Rand in this and basically tries to complain about her using the same language that she complains about the people she didn't like. I don't know. It's just bizarre.
I mean, the difference is, of course, that she was a Jewish immigrant. But...
yeah, that's correct. That's correct. But at the start of that page, it says Christianity, Islam, and almost every other religion has condemned the practice of usury. That is a juicy sentence. That right there. Let's name some religions.
You could say that the fault is with the religion.
My girlfriend just made an amazing noise. She sounded like a valve letting out steam.
Yeah.
She's watching the Twitch chat on a slight delay, so she just got that sentence about Christianity and Islam.
Almost every other religion.
Almost every other religion. Almost every other religion. Almost every other religion.
Yeah, there's one asterisk needed here. There's one that didn't.
That's true. Yeah, Scientology. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely Scientology.
Yeah, that's right.
And I mean, just like, the idea of this is like material analysis, where it's like, later down on that page, over time, the practice of lending money for interest leads to the about that. The traditional systems of morality sought to prevent these things with their ban on usury. The moral opposition to usury, rebald, as is called in the Islamic societies, is not simply religious. He's blaming this on like societal, on cultural decay, not like any economic circumstances or like historic. Like this is straight up cultural decay.
It's literally like. Again, if in his section on what is anti-Semitism, he had covered the same history that Hannah Arendt goes over, right? Like, Jews in Europe were allowed to lend money, Christians were not. And it was a fucking law put in by the Christian fucking aristocracy. It wasn't, specifically
so that when it caused problems, they could go, oh, it's not us, it's the Jews, go get them.
Yes, and it was centuries of people falling for their bullshit from which this shit arose, and he's just like repeating it with like the thinnest coat of paint here. Like,
I don't even think it's painted. I think he's straight up just saying that, like, throughout medieval Europe, Jews practice usury because of their twisted backwards religion.
It's like
the civilized Christians and Muslims didn't.
It feels like an I think you should leave sketch. It feels like no shit. You know Donald Glover's sketch where he like shits his pants and then he goes out and he comes back into class and pretends to be a different guy. Like, it feels like Caleb just bringing all this fucking Nazi shit to us and just being like, no, this is my friend, Smadolf Smitler. He's really cool. He loves to skateboard and graffiti things, and he watches Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He's a cool guy, and he doesn't hate the Jews. Jesus Christ. Fuck.
I mean, this really does feel like a proposal suggesting that if we do fascism, it will lead to communism. So we can't say that we're doing that first part, but if we do it,
exactly,
it'll lead to communism.
I've been complaining about like how I have a better knowledge of Lenin than this fucking dweeb, but like he doesn't. I don't think he claims to be a Marxist-Leninist, right? It's not.
Yes.
He does. Okay, but I just mean that as opposed to Marxist-Leninists who propose for allowing for the material conditions that are right for it, moving through capitalism and wealth accumulation into communism. It's like his same fucking thing, but it's just like fascism and then communism. It's because he's a Nazbol. Like, sorry, I'm just going in a big circle to reconclude the same thing that's just like the first thing I ever knew about this guy, but it's just so true. Like,
it's like the more he denies it, the more evidence just keeps piling up. It's like, if you believe that fascism is the final stage of capitalism and you have to move through capitalism to get to socialism.
He got really, really stuck on the dictatorship of the proletariat. He was just like, that sounds fucking awesome.
Like, I like the dictatorship part. The proletariat part I'm not so hot on.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, truly a shock, though, to see the guy who went to the Nazbol conference and sat with the inventor of being a Nazbol, suggesting that the Jews are responsible for everything.
Are we sure, though, that this isn't just several hundred coincidences?
Oh, I didn't think of that. That's a good point.
It's possible.
But when ContraPoints makes a video you don't like, that's the CIA.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay. Yeah, again, he's claiming this shit, which is the U.S. military and policing agencies are directly accountable to these institutions. Often the government machinery of repression is directly in debt to the banks. When this isn't the case, these entities are still accountable to governments and elected officials that are. And it's like, again, debt the first 5,000 years opens with the American, what's it called, idiom, when you owe the bank $10,000, the bank owns you. When you owe the bank $10 billion, you own the bank. And it's like, the U.S. military borrow money from the fucking bank because the bank gonna say no to the U.S. military? Is the bank gonna be like, okay, give us our money back right now to the U.S. military? Like, it doesn't. It's such a bizarre fucking analysis of the world to be like. It is collecting facts because you're trying to fit them into a conclusion rather than building your conclusion based on facts. There you go. And what conclusion is he trying to build towards? We will never know. These are all just coincidences all the time.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I can't take any of these ideas.
Oh my god, that's...
No, yeah.
Is this dude ever read Marx?
Oh god.
How does he think the boom bust cycles don't happen?
Oh. There's so much going on here. There's so much going on.
I just can't engage.
It's just too much. Like, I don't know.
The worms have overtaken my brain. I can no longer attempt to understand.
It's like I should just go back to the fucking final page and just leave that up. There's all the discussion that's fucking necessary.
Yeah.
There it is. There it fucking is.
You know what really fucking gets my goat though? Is that like anytime we bring any of this up, there's going to be a contingent of dipshits that are going to be like, this is just leftist infighting.
I know.
It's like this dude is like fucking the Jews control the world. We got to do something about it. We need to have a global revolt against international Jewry.
Right.
Also, capitalism bad, and people are like, "Well, can't you just work together on the parts you agree on?"
Yeah, I mean, also fucking at the same time, like while Caleb and his pals like have tried to insist, like, you know, from the first video you did about him, like you were pointing out him hanging out with that turf and like palling around with that turf, like Caleb has repeatedly tried to be like, no, I've been to trans rights protests, and it's like, but like the moment we started this stream, a ton of fucking people came through here like saying notorious like transphobic fucking garbage, like just flooding the chat with it, and defending Caleb. It's like he gets to just again and again be like, no, I support trans people, and it's like, fucking no, you fucking don't. And he gets to just put in his book about like, I don't know, whatever shit. It's
the
like
very first sentence he wrote about me made sure to just make sure this is the first thing people know about me, that I am non-binary and prefer they them pronouns, which is not true. Don't know where he got that info. It was the first thing he said. He's like, I really want to frame this so that you know exactly who this is. This is important. The most important information of Thoughtslime is this.
Right. Exactly. It's okay. Well, I guess I don't have more to add. I think I'm just like,
Yeah.
I think if there's anything else,
I can add a little bit.
Yeah, hit me. Is there a page you want to go to?
No,
Okay.
I just want to sort of look at this as a whole, if we're sort of moving to wrap up.
That sounds fab.
I was watching Dan Olson's video in search of a flat earth earlier today because I figured it would probably be a little bit useful to this conversation.
Can't imagine why.
And specifically the point that I thought was really relevant to this is that the appearance of being on the same side, identifying similar issues, is almost entirely superficial because we have completely different ideas of what to do about it. So just because he appears to be on the same side as us, it doesn't matter because what he wants to do, what his proposal for moving forward is completely not at all in the region of what we are advocating for him.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's because he's working really hard to try and appear to be on the side of leftism, and to say that we are not real leftists and shit like this. What were you gonna say, Sam?
I've just been like skimming through like other parts of the book, just looking for like, because I am very curious to see how he lays out the mechanism through which the financial crash happened because of Israel. And I mean, I've just found like this is on page 94.
Okay.
It's a section destroying the public sector. It reads the jobs of public sector workers are high-paying jobs with benefits and security. Public sector workers often enjoy the protection of labor unions who represent their employees in binding arbitration hearings, mediations, and other procedures. When discrimination in hiring was far more widespread, African Americans and other ethnic minorities often flocked to government jobs as a place they could be hired and receive higher wages. Starting with the administration of Franklin Delano Roosevelt in the 30s, big efforts were made
FDR is
to
not
curb
gonna fuck you!
discrimination in government hiring, making such a practice officially illegal and establishing public service examinations and other procedures for hiring designed to open those jobs up to okay, maybe I was misreading that. It seemed very much like he was saying that like anti-discrimination laws were bad because they remove black people from like government jobs.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that's maybe a bit ungenerous of him. I want to be as fair as I can because there's enough meat here without taking him out of context.
Yeah, Jesus. I guess
apologies for that one, Caleb. I think I misread you there.
However, the last line of your book we didn't misread.
Oh yeah,
we
you're
know exactly
still a
what the fuck.
piece of shit. Fuck you. But, like, so, I got that one wrong. I jumped the gun there.
So there's a section called why don't we have a look at the section on page 142 called "Staging the Culture War."
Oh god.
Which again, it's just like every single fucking bit of this. It's like well, you can have a Marxist analysis of this stuff, you can have a materialist analysis of this stuff, but if your book is called "The Israel Lobby" and it's called "Satan at the Fountainhead," and then you have a section that's called "Staging the Culture War," it's like
if the world was a stage of perpetual conflict.
Well, it's yeah. So if you, I hate this so much. It's just that the unspoken party acting in every section title and every chapter title throughout the book is Israel, and by Israel he does mean the Jews. And so when you say something like "staging the culture wars," it's just like, there you go. During the last several decades, the political views of average Americans usually were closely linked to their perspectives on the latest culture war. Culture wars come and go and tend to be based on emotional and tradition-related issues that cannot be resolved with rational arguments. Yeah.
Capitalized culture wars. That is somewhere where you actually could use quotation marks.
Yeah, it kind of implies that again, when he's not directly quoting someone, it means something else.
Oh, yeah.
Well, to be fair to Caleb, he does then use quotation marks around culture wars, which are still capitalized later on the page.
And around liberals and conservatives and happy holidays, Merry Christmas, under God. There are just so many quotes throughout this fucking... He just doesn't know what...
You have to read the next paragraph.
Okay.
It is
all right, so here we go.
Unbelievable.
So... the issues tend to divide the US public between liberals and conservatives. Liberals tend to favor scaling back various aspects of US patriotism, culture, and Christianity, while conservatives tend to support defending and expanding them at all costs. Culture wars often involve emotionally loaded symbols like flags, Bibles, and artwork.
Liberals want to scale back culture and Christianity.
Yeah.
Conservatives are defending them at all costs.
Yeah.
Could not be more obvious where his sympathies lie.
It's like, for fucking, also like for trans people, like, you know, it's a thing that we can like brazenly acknowledge that like right now trans issues are being used in what, you know, gets referred to as the culture war, and used as a thing to sow more division and to rally around as like the unacceptable bridge too far that conservatives can't let liberals push us over, right? And they also materially affect loads of people's lives. It's like, it's not just like a silly performance on a stage. Like, it's not just a flashbang, flags, Bibles, and artwork. And no, it's like fucking, it's people's access to healthcare. It's people's fucking ability to get a job. Like, in the UK, like, the fucking turf shit, like, there's a company who inform the human resources practices of the entire fucking country, and they just published like guidance that completely ignores what the actual law is and essentially advises bosses to discriminate against trans people on a case-by-case basis. Like, that's a fucking material effect. I don't know. I keep on coming back to this materialism thing because the brainworm I have is that these people and their supporters have been saying that we don't care about materialism and that they care about materialism for such a long fucking time. Mm-hmm. And they are so antithetical to material analysis. Anyway.
Right. I think that's why it's such a struggle to try to look at this book through that lens, is being like, I'm trying to put your ideas in sort of like where you're saying they are, and I cannot do that.
Yeah, you keep telling me that what you believe is this. And when I take your ideas and I try, they just don't fit.
So, like, of my videos has more citations than we've seen in this book so far. Have we seen a single one? Has there been a single citation?
No. It's just Caleb dictating the narrative of all history, which is very cool.
I saw a couple early on where you like cites, I think, specific New York Times articles. That's it.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay. So, the distortion of Christianity.
Imperialist news source, the New York Times.
So, the distortion of Christianity. The teachings of Jesus Christ and the Christian religion, as it has developed over the course of the last 2 millennium, is incompatible with the ideology of Zionism. The ideology of Zionism is articulated by Israeli rabbis with statements such as was articulated by Rabbi Ovadia Youssef. In 2010, the prominent Israeli religious leader proclaimed, everyone's reading ahead of me and it's not fair, I want to get to the quote.
Yeah.
The prominent Israeli religious leader proclaimed, Goyim were born only to serve us. Without that, they have no place in the world, only to serve the people of Israel. That is why Gentiles were created. Zionism in all forms is racism. Religious Zionists interpret the Talmud and the Torah as proving Jews to be inherently superior to non-Jews. In its secular form, Zionism views the end of establishing and securing a Jewish state as primary, with violations of human rights as acceptable. And wait, does the Talmud talk about? Oh, sorry, in a secular form. Okay, sorry, I thought he was still saying that this was from the Talmud, was ignoring human rights as acceptable action towards achieving this end. Yeah, this
How
is.
does it keep getting worse?
Shall we go to the coming revolution?
Also, Jesus Christ was Jewish, by the way.
That one's gonna
you didn't
fuck
know
Caleb up really hard. Let's see if we can find. I feel like I've accidentally gone the wrong way. Where is the coming revolution? Because I really, it's been asked for. Mildred wants us to know what Caleb has to say about the day of the rope, and it's, well, I guess it's here. Chapter 10, The Coming Revolt. Okay.
Cannot wait.
Barack Obama is not an anti-Zionist or opponent of Israel. That's true. Yes. American president supports American imperialist outposts.
Okay, wait, I'm so sorry.
FDR.
Page 145, like we sort of like ended the distortion of Christianity. The next page is actually wild. Like, it is literally
okay,
just
I can go back. I can go back.
Justification for hating Jews.
I'm gonna go back for this one, and then we can get to the coming revolt. You say 145?
145, yeah.
Okay.
Or like it's a continuation of the paragraph at the end of 144, but yeah.
So, nearly there. Oh, defending Stalin, and okay. The teachings of Jesus Christ, the founder of Christianity, are in no way consistent with Zionism. Christ articulated his message to humanity with parables, many of which were a blatant rejection of Zionist concepts. One of the most famous parables of Jesus Christ told of the Good Samaritan. Sorry, okay. It highlighted how a member of the religious grouping hated by Jews, a Samaritan...
This is the one piece of evidence where, quotation mark does not mean Jew.
Right! A Samaritan was more ethical and moral than the most obedient and religiously observant Jews, the priests and Levites. The Samaritan was more moral because he showed mercy to a man who had been attacked by robbers. Luke 10:30-37, the famous parable, emphasized that the actions of individuals are more important than their race or religious identity. The parable was an open condemnation of the idea that Jews should be separate or hostile to other ethnic or religious groups, which was a common view at the time and is a definitive aspect of Zionism. Another famous parable used by Christ to illustrate his message was the parable of the Pharisee and the tax collector. The parable told of an upstanding Jewish religious leader, a Pharisee, who prayed without any humility thinking himself superior to others, while a tax collector prayed with humility.
Do you have anybody?
While a tax collector prayed with humility, admitting the errors of his ways. In this parable, though the tax collector was viewed with scorn because he collaborated with the Roman Empire, God favored the tax collector, for everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, but he who humbles himself will be exalted.
I don't think that was meant as like a coded message about like
Israel.
I think it's more so about like conspicuously praying and making a big show of how holy you are.
Right.
And I think also one thing when he talks about the collaboration with the Roman Empire, you got to keep in mind that when the Bible was written down, it was in the Roman Empire, and if they didn't do things to appease the Roman Empire, make them not the bad guys in the book, they would be fed to literal lions.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Which is also why in the Bible there's that they basically invented anti-Semitism by pretending that it was the fault of just random Jews who said that we should crucify Christ instead of Barabbas, and the good Roman Pontius Pilate just washes his hands of it, says, "Okay, it's not my responsibility."
Right, literally.
Also,
if
like,
you had a materialist understanding of history,
right?
Big if there.
Well, it's important to Caleb to be a patriot and a good Christian, so he can't take the Bible as something that was written down in the context of history. Sorry, Jess.
Right, but isn't like also the point of a parable is to be like a moral lesson for like the members of this, religion, and since the members of this religion are Jewish people, of course the parables are going to be Jewish people not living up to.
Right. He's espousing a philosophy that you should treat everyone equally, the golden rule, all of this stuff. And he's talking to Jews, so he's like, even if they're not Jews, he's not being like, Jews are bad. He didn't just like one day turn to his followers and be like, take a knee, everyone. So Jews, they suck.
Also,
his followers, who are also all Jews.
That's what I'm saying.
Why is it relevant? Jesus Christ said, unless you believe that that's like the natural law of the land. You're aware, I think, Caleb, quite famously, Jews do not worship Christ.
Well, I think the point of this is to say that being Christian, being a good Christian means that you should be this is why Christianity is so important. We need good Christians to be in charge of America, and America to be governed by good Christian values, because those
is what I'm
necessarily
implying,
include
He's just doing the absolutely most classic Christian anti-Semitism.
I mean, and I was I started reading this fully expecting him to do the whole Jesus was a socialist thing, which I'm not a huge fan of, because it kind of socialism didn't exist at the time, but that's
I mean, some forms of socialism did, but it's whatever. It's not,
but I was fully expecting that. I was not expecting it to be Jesus would totally support my hatred of Jewish people.
Caleb's putting himself on a level with Joseph Smith, just writing a fucking fan fiction about Jesus and how he would hate the ethnic minorities you would hate.
But what's amazing though is that he's not directly saying these people are evil. What he's saying is there's a contingent of these people that believe that they are superior, but I can prove that they're not by appealing to a different religion than theirs, as though that refutes them. Yeah. Even in the demented worldview where this is somehow a tenet of the Jewish faith, that they're inherently superior, even in that, it wouldn't be a counter-argument to say, well, no, because in a different religion they say otherwise. Gotcha.
Jesus Christ shall come back to earth and lead the vanguard. Yes, and his name will be Caleb Maupin. You will know him by him wearing his dad's suit.
This is very funny. This is also just a complete bastardization of the Bible.
Yes.
As it was meant to be interpreted. The parable of the Good Samaritan is about treating people of other, religions and minorities equally to, the dominant, or majority religion or ethnicity. And he's just using it as like, yeah, but he actually, in the parable of the Good Samaritan, he's saying that Jews were worse than the Samaritans, which is like completely missing the entire point.
Yeah. The Father, the Caleb, and the Holy FDR. Wow. Okay, let's have a look at Chapter 10, The Coming Revolt, because, we've been building up to it. So, Barack Obama is not an anti-Zionist. Again, shocking. Or opponent of Israel. Though many had hoped otherwise under Obama's administration. That's an interesting one. I feel like Fox News had fear-mongered otherwise. I don't know that people had really been like, I'm backing Obama because he's going to tell Israel what's what. Israel has been able to depend on the continued support of the United States. Obama may have deeper experience with and knowledge of Islam than other U.S. leaders.
What?
In the early years,
Citation needed.
Political career involved politics much more radical than those he currently espouses, but this has proven to be irrelevant.
What?
That was Nat catching up.
I'm sorry.
He's saying Obama's a Muslim. What the fuck? What the fuck?
No, he's saying may. May. He may.
Well, but he's saying it with like a...
Oh, baby. This is actually a thing I was intending to mention about Caleb, which is that, like, you know how he presents himself like a boomer, even though he isn't one? It's like, the Nazbol party, like, unless I'm misremembering this, like, were basically controlled opposition, and, like, were appealing to a bunch of conservatives in Russia, and, like, conservatives in Russia who, like, older people who lived during the Soviet Union. Like, a lot of actually, like, reactionary and conservative folks are communists in the former Soviet Union, and, like, that's kind of the shape of the Nazbol party, and so it's kind of an interesting element that, like, repeatedly you will kind of see Caleb, appealing to, like, who the ordinary folk is, the ordinary working class Joe, and he's talking to, like, a 90-year-old. Like, like the way that we might be like, we might be like, you're a working class person, you have to work 3 fucking hospitality shifts back to back, and then you get home and you watch an hour of this Twitch stream, and then you have to go to bed because you're exhausted. He's like, you're an ordinary person. You love Werther's Originals and naps. You hate when you feel like the Jamaican nurse is stealing from you. That's an ordinary working class concern.
Why did the Zionists make your iPhone so hard to work?
Israel is making it so your grandchildren never call. Right.
Ordinary people are concerned about how the Israel lobby took away NCIS.
Israel rescheduled Colombo tonight. Right. Despite occasional... Sorry, but okay. Obama has overseen continued U.S. complicity in Israeli atrocities and human rights violations. Based Caleb. Despite occasional words of consolation, Obama has been completely loyal to U.S. tradition of support for Israel and its crimes. This tradition began after the death of Roosevelt. Jess, you fucking called it!
Before the death of Roosevelt.
You called it exactly. You were just like, when did he think that, like, America turned bad? And it's literally like, the day Roosevelt dropped dead, that was it for America, and then the Zionists made it capitalist.
Yeah, before then, it was like things were this close to just being amazing. And then Ayn Rand took her bullet in the shape of a polio disease and killed FDR.
CIA and Ayn Rand worked together to give FDR polio. Jesus Christ. What is the... Okay. I'm just checking on a thing that's coming up here. This tradition began after the death of Roosevelt and the assumption of power by Harry S. Truman, who once thundered, "I am Cyrus," at a Zionist gathering in New York City. Barack Obama has received standing ovations from from AIPAC, and was even declared by Israel supporting columnist Jeffrey Goldberg of the I'm surprised that name isn't in quotes of the Atlantic Monthly to be the first Jewish president. Cool. The historical significance of the Obama presidency. In US politics, the first years of Obama's presidency were unique, not due to any policy or statement of... Sorry, I've just remembered again, like, I said that like, people weren't, like, hoping Obama comes in and, like, tells Israel what's what and sorts them all out. Like, Fox News were being like, Obama is a Muslim, so he'll end support for Israel. And then Caleb reports that as, like, many hoped he would have been against Israel. And it's like, that's just not true. Like, whatever. Again,
I hate to interrupt, but
yeah.
Is this the title? Have we moved on to a new section? Did we just completely skip over? Like,
we're in the
The
chapter.
Coming Revolt?
We're in the chapter, The Coming Revolt. This section is called The Historical Significance of the Obama Presidency. Yeah.
There's a great sentence coming up.
Yeah.
Really hold on to your
socks. I just wanted to make sure that we are still on track for The Coming Revolt.
Yeah.
In US politics, the first years of Obama's presidency were unique, not due to any policy or statement of Obama, but the historical importance of Obama's taking office. Obama is a dark-skinned man of African descent, and he is the first non-white man to ever assume the office of the President of the United States.
Jesus!
The reason for the extreme euphoria resulting from his...
Did he type that using his calipers?
Yeah.
This is what I mean, that, like, his entire, like, cultural bubble appears to be 90-year-olds. So it's like many had hoped that he would do something about Israel. It's like, okay, but if you're... No, that's not true. But if you're in the world of, like, entirely 90-year-olds who all believe Obama is a Muslim and all believe he's gonna fuck up Israel, then some of you believe that's a good thing because you also hate Jews. Like, if you think that, like, your nursing home is the entire political spectrum. Anyway, the reasons for the extreme euphoria resulting from his 2008 electoral victory are rooted in the history of the United States. The United States' very existence as a country is the result... How are you explaining this to me right now, Caleb? What is happening right now? Is the result
Please tell me more about the history of the United States.
Is the result of
May
white
not know
settler
this, but
colonialism.
people were excited when Obama was elected because he was black. I don't know if you knew that.
Mm-hmm.
Black Americans came to the United States in chains from Africa. That's not quite true. Black Americans didn't. Okay. With millions not surviving the initial journey. Slavery continued until the bloody Civil War, which was followed by the decades of racist apartheid conditions. African Americans continue to struggle against discrimination, police brutality, and higher rates of unemployment, imprisonment, and poverty. The recognition of even basic humanity of African Americans has been a result of centuries of struggle and confrontation. Does it feel at all like he is doing, like, a tokenistic summary of the history of racism so he can get onto, like, other shit? Like, it just feels... It's like the thing I was saying before about, like, the way that fascists will just, like... It's fine for them if someone says things that they disagree with because everyone says things that they disagree with because they're fascists. So it's just like, I'm just saying this bit to cover my ass. Like, I'm just showing that I know about racism existing, I guess. Obama's assumption of the presidency was the cause for so much celebration across the United States because of its symbolism, an event that could not have taken place in the 1950s or even the 1990s. Wait, an event that could not have taken place in the 1950s. An event that could not have taken place in the 1950s, or even the 1990s, had come about. A black man had assumed the office of commander-in-chief despite the extreme amount of ugly racism in both the present and past of the country. The event was seen as the culmination of decades of struggle against racism, and different sectors of U.S. society reacted to it on that basis. Okay. Israel's... Go on.
This is the Coming Revolt?
I know.
Relevant to...
What? Do you understand why this is? I genuinely...
I don't know. Why is there so much talk about race and about chapter about the coming revolt? I just don't see the connection.
Yeah, you may have solved it.
It's like he's writing a book for an alien who just arrived on Earth.
Andrew, hey Andrew. Andrew in chat says, brace yourselves. And I think that's probably the best possible attitude we can have here.
Okay.
I don't know that Andrew has read it. I hope for his sake not, but like he's probably right. So Israel's changing image. In its early years, the Zionist political movement attempted to portray itself as a progressive struggle for national liberation. The Israeli Labour Party painted deceptive images of Israel as a kind of socialist Garden of Eden. Repeating this falsehood, the majority of the world communist movement and many otherwise progressive and anti-imperialist groups wrongfully supported Israel in its early years. In 1948, the opposition to Israel in the United States was dominated by the isolationist right wing. However, over the course of the last several decades, Israel's socialistic and humanitarian imagery has been torn down by reality. The Jewish settlers who piled into Palestine under the Balfour Declaration, directed by wealthy British bankers, were not socialist utopians, but racist white settlers, not much different from those in other parts of the world. Correct. They slaughtered and oppressed the Palestinian people with the same Eurocentrist hatred and expressed the same mentality as expressed in Rudyard Kipling's poem about the white man's burden. Okay. I'm just... Yeah, he's building to something, isn't he?
Enough.
He's
condemn this country, by the way.
He's summing up a history to get to a point here, and I have no idea where we're going. Since 1948, Israel has been torturing, slaughtering, and shocking humanity with its brutality. It's been torturing... Oh, maybe it's a self-contained verb. It's been torturing, slaughtering, and shocking humanity with its brutality. Palestinians live in horrendous conditions. Many are even homeless and imprisoned within their own homeland. Israel's aggression has not been limited to the Palestinians, but has been extended to many other parts of the region. The current Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, represents the right-wing current which has now assumed dominance in Israeli politics. The rise of Netanyahu's Likud party is linked to the reality of Israel becoming more apparent to the world. As the reality of Israel as a colonial apartheid settler regime becomes inescapable, the Labour Zionist current, with its socialistic rhetoric, has been pushed aside. It's a very simplistic history. If people want to know more about Netanyahu family and Netanyahu in specific and his history, then there's a great episode of Behind the Bastards about them. That's really just flattening things down to like one sort of political current. Anyway, Netanyahu's base of support is the extremist right wing of the Zionist movement that includes those who established settlements beyond the 1967 borders. The settlers are known to watch airstrike bombings in lawn chairs like they are a form of entertainment. Recently, there was a great deal of outcry when photographs surfaced on social media of Israeli high school students staging a mock lynching. Dressed in full KKK attire with a student dressed in blackface makeup, these high school students appeared to be almost celebrating one of the ugliest atrocities of racism in the history of the United States, in which black men were extrajudicially executed in a carnival-like atmosphere.
I'll wait for this revolt. Looking forward to a revolt.
I know.
I'm seeing a connection now starting to be made.
Okay. The extremist right-wing minority. Since Obama's election, there has been a section of U.S. society that has refused to recognize his presidency as legitimate. They have frivolously tried to claim Obama has no legitimate birth certificate and was actually born in Kenya. But you implied he's a Muslim, Caleb! Okay. They attempted to link Obama to the Communist Party of the USA or to armed anti-capitalist groups which operated during the 1970s. They have tried to claim he is secretly not a Christian, but a Muslim.
Can you imagine?
Right.
No
While
way.
a certain level of extreme hostility is expected from the political opponents of any president, the extreme rage of the almost entirely white Tea Party movement in the first years of Obama's presidency was unique. In one instance, an elderly white Tea Party activist in a town hall screamed, "What happened to my America?" in front of TV cameras. A certain sector of U.S. society has seen Obama's presidency as a defeat for the white...
Hold on.
Yep.
He later talks about there being two Americas. He says he has his own America. The bad guys.
He lives in the special America. That's right. Yeah. A certain sector of U.S. society has seen Obama's presidency as a defeat for the white establishment of the United States. They see it as a defeat for the racist historical setup of the United States and a victory for the anti-racist movement. Regardless of Obama's regardless of Obama's actions and policies, this sector continues to insist that he is dismantling the American way of life. These extreme forces are a minority in the U.S. of U.S. society. Even much of the Republican Party has distanced itself from them. They are the extreme right-wing fringe. The extreme right-wing has no longer got its quotes. I just don't know when extreme right-wing has quotes and when it doesn't, and why. Fringe of US politics, which is currently facing an identity and political crisis. Different currents, including conspiracist libertarians, anti-immigrant bigots, Christian fanatics, isolationists, and anarcho-capitalists, seek to point the US right wing in different directions. A generational crisis has plagued the US far right, and a slew of different narratives explaining the grievances compete for believers. The 2014 CPAC, which selected Rand Paul as its favorite candidate, was a display of the crisis facing the extreme right wing in the United States. Many conservatives are longing for the Bush years when the simplistic policies of support our troops and the commander-in-chief and united we stand were in command. Netanyahu's invitation to speak at a joint session of the US Congress was an extreme blunder for Israel in terms of public relations. The speech and the controversy it aroused has effectively linked Israel to the weak and confused extreme right wing in the United States. Polls is he predicting
What?
Trump? Is that what's going to come up? Is that the coming revolt? I just don't know. Polls show that the majority of US voters do not approve of the Congressman Buckner's invitation of Netanyahu against the wishes of the president. The extremist section of the Republican Party's celebration of Netanyahu and Netanyahu's acceptance of this celebration further reveals what Israel has often tried to conceal. The Israeli settlers who cheered as bombs were dropped on the Palestinian families and the right-wing fanatics who believe Obama is secretly a Muslim communist born in Kenya are political clones. They are defenders of empire and the legacy of colonialism. They are white supremacists who view dark-skinned people as inferior. They are growing enraged as this worldview has become more and more thoroughly repudiated and threatened over the course of the last century. This is a really fucking bizarre chapter.
I'm really not sure what he's trying to get at.
I know.
There. Like, I mean, I don't think it's very accurate to say that, like, Netanyahu, speaking, was like, at the U.S. Congress was like a blow to Zionism. I don't think that that's very accurate.
No,
but
yeah.
Also, I have no idea what point he's trying to get to.
Well, I guess we'll just have to press on because the chapter is called "The Coming Revolt." So
yeah,
let's read Israel Unmasked. The height of Israel's strength was when it could deceive the world about its nature. Okay, when Israel could It's very... He's not on the money here at all. Like, whatever. When Israel could align itself with figures like leftist Vice President Henry Wallace and promote itself with films like Exodus, it was able to gather far more approval for its actions. The myth of Israel was a utopian incarnation of the national aspirations of Jews, was very effective in furthering Israel's aims and gaining approval and funding for its crimes. However, this image has fallen into complete disrepair. The decline of Israel's public relations has been a lengthy process. The Soviet Union and China's support for Palestinian resistance, the revelations of Israeli cooperations with apartheid in South Africa, the Goldstone Report documenting war crimes and abuses, have all played a role in redefining Israel's image and narrative in a global discourse. 1979, Islamic Revolution of Iran launched the Palestinian people miles ahead in their struggle for freedom. Imam Khomeini's call for demonstrations supporting Palestine on the last Friday of Ramadan caught on globally. The Day of Al-Quds remains a global day of resistance and opposition to Zionism, with Sunnis, Shias, Christians, Muslims, secular anti-imperialists, as well as anti-Zionist Jews rallying in their millions each year. Where is this? Like, I just don't...
Oh God,
Netanyahu's alliance with the Tea Party's fanaticism and his participation with them in a joint political assault on the sitting president pushes Israel further down the fatal road it cannot escape. That's not... So this history, okay, the more he gets inaccurate, the more I'm starting to actually understand where this is going, because his inaccuracies is he's increasingly saying that Israel is unstable and failing, and that they've made blunders and it's all gonna fuck them up really bad. Like, that's where he's saying that they're going. We're starting to get towards the coming revolt, is my point.
I see.
Netanyahu's blunder creates a new opening for forces opposed to Israel and its crimes. blah, blah, blah. As Israel's public image declines, see, this is it, right? It will be the duty of Palestine's allies to make the important connections to anti-imperialist struggles around the world. The predictions from the CIA about the pending collapse of Israel were not made frivolously. Wait, is Caleb citing the CIA as a source right now? Were not made frivolously, and the following decade could be one of vital importance for the global movement of resistance, specifically its forces in the Middle East. The strength of Roosevelt. God damn, dude. Okay.
Holds his magic sword aloft and he says, "With the strength of Roosevelt."
Oh, God. Okay. In 1934, the labor activist Sidney Hillman sat with President for I cannot listen to a fucking fan fiction anecdote about Roosevelt's boyfriend. I can't do it. I just can't. What the fuck? Oh, God. I can't read a fucking section about the strength of Roosevelt. I can't do it.
We're gonna learn how FDR set up the blueprint for the revolt.
I can't do it. I can't read an entire Roosevelt
that's
speech.
Definitely what this is. That's definitely what this is. He's talking about how he set up the blueprint for revolt.
Oh, God.
Absolutely.
Oh, God. Many people believe that the assassination of JFK in 1963 was largely motivated by fears that he could become a similar figure to Roosevelt. He is blaming the Jews for the assassination of JFK. That is what that sentence means. He just blamed the Jews for the assassination of JFK. Thank you, everyone, for bearing with us. Thank you for bearing with us through this boring chapter, because we just got to it. We got to some good shit now.
I don't think that all Jews should be held responsible for the crimes of Bernie Sanders. He assassinated JFK.
Bernie Sanders was the second shooter on the grassy knoll. Obviously, the first shooter was Ted Cruz's dad, the Zodiac killer. Okay. Roosevelt brilliantly knew the art. I just can't. No, I can't read more. I just can't do more of. Okay, here we go. The fighting fall of 2011. The year of 2011 will be remembered as a turning point in the struggle against the Wall Street monopolists in the United States. As the year began, university employees in the Midwestern state of Wisconsin decided to take action inspired by the Arab Spring events unfolding in Egypt and Tunisia. The governor of Wisconsin, a follower of Ayn Rand named Scott Walker, shout out to Scott, he sucks, had proposed legislation to eliminate the right of public employees to collectively bargain for their wages and working conditions. Fun note I learned about Scott Walker: he eats the same white bread ham sandwich every day and has for multiple decades. The man is probably 60% ham, if not more. Okay. His proposed law made Jews collection and closed shop contracts by public sector unions illegal. So hang on, by calling him a follower of Ayn Rand, is he trying to say that I'm just trying to tie it back in now. It's like he thinks that free market ideology, like he thinks that he's explicitly said, like he thinks that neoliberalism, he thinks that like ANCAPs, Ayn Rand are all Israeli Zionist ideologies. Like that's pretty explicit in the book here.
Yeah.
And so like just like waspy freaks like Scott Walker are part of the Zionist conspiracy because they're a follower of Ayn Rand. Okay.
They're basically Jewish. I mean,
essentially, right? Yeah, absolutely. That's
race traitors, one might call them.
Yeah.
You could, yeah, if you were really feeling perturbed by their betrayal. Jesus Christ, with this. Okay, so he's describing
speaking of race traitors.
So he's describing what happened with Scott Walker and the people protesting him, and then being able to fight back on him. Okay, class war ahead. Okay, maybe we're getting here now. Oh shit! He's calling Occupy the beginning of the coming revolt. Of course, because he is the most important man in history. He, Caleb Maupin, will bring about the downfall of the Zionist regime. Okay, now I'm getting it. Yep. Okay, right.
Malcolm X, Black Panthers, Caleb Maupin.
That's right. That's exactly what this is. I just don't want to spend like another half an hour of reading just like him summing up the history of the 2010s.
Well,
you know,
just one thing on I think it's 257. There's a few months later in New York City, the Zionist Mayor Bloomberg proposed his own controversial budget, cutting the public sector in the name of shared sacrifice. The proposed budget for the upcoming fiscal year of 2012 eliminated thousands of jobs while allocating tens of thousands of dollars for a research campus to be constructed for the Israeli Institute for Technology. So, like, I think that, like, his argument is that, like, austerity measures in America are a Zionist plot.
Jesus fucking Christ.
So on one of the pages that we skipped through, there was a paragraph about when Gaddafi died, the American left was silent about their complicity in sharing the narrative that he was a human rights abuser.
On the day that Muammar Gaddafi was killed, the mainstream corporate-funded left, he hasn't changed, folks, he hasn't changed, was silent after having repeated propaganda about him being a human rights violator and justifying U.S. intervention. But in the tents of Zuccotti Park, thousands of youth raised their voices in support of this African leader who had sought to develop an independent African currency and oppose the rule of monopolist bankers. Jesus Christ! No, that's just not fucking true. That's just not fucking true. The Occupy movement wasn't on the side of... Oh, God fucking damn it. Jesus Christ. Okay. Ferguson and Gaza, that's good shit. Oh, okay, this is part of the coming revolt because it's like Ferguson getting the attention and Black Lives Matter getting the... Oh, wait, no, he doesn't believe Black Lives... He thinks Black Lives Matter are CIA puppetry.
Of course.
And Gaza are... this is examples of the Zionist plot coming to an end. That's very cool. Okay, that makes sense. Oh, shit, he does touch here on... The corporation is also primary supplier of tear gas and other weapons to the Israeli military. So he's starting to touch on their, like, some of the places where, like, military training and resources and equipment is shared between American police and military and Israeli military. And again, it's just the most basic thing of the book, besides him being, you know, a massive fascist, is him just having it, like, perfectly backwards. He's just like American police and military have stuff in common with the Israeli military. That must mean... And it's like, no, dude. It's because Israel is an outpost of American imperialism in the Middle East. So, of course, they share in Americans. You got it fucking backwards.
It's Foucault's boomerang, right? You practice imperialism out there, and then it comes back to bite you domestically.
Yes, literally. Yeah, so, like, you can say that it was in Israel first, but it's literally that, because it's,
there's a word here that I'm very happy to see.
Is it Cabal again?
No, it's my favorite word that he says.
Where are we? Oh, God.
At the very bottom of the page.
Okay, here we go. The 2 days in July, with placards and signs, fast food workers have walked off the job chanting, "We can't survive on $7.25," and "Hold the burgers, hold the fries, we want our wages supersized." The uprising has involved workers at Burger King, Wendy's, and other fast food restaurants, but the primary target has been McDonald's. This one is going to be one which is really weird. Like, there is, like, this isn't the only section that goes after McDonald's. A lot of the book actually paints McDonald's as a big part of the Zionist plot. The low-wage, low-quality culinary empire assembled by the Zionist Roy Kroc is facing a mass uprising. The revolt comes from its young employees who are angry and refusing to accept the life of low-wage, short-term employment in the service sector economy. A McDonald's employee named Tommy Cavanaugh addressed a gathering of progressive activists in November 2014, saying, "I stand proud as a fast food worker and owe this in great part to the thousands of other fast food and low-wage workers who have risked what meager income they have by fighting back against exploitation." Like, yeah, man, and he didn't talk about the Zionists. Because
how is it relevant to the fact that McDonald's exploits workers by stealing the surplus value of their labor? Mention, and also the founder was a Zionist.
This whole thing is just turning class war into race war. That's the only reason.
It is, right? Like, it literally
Socialism
is.
of fools.
This is where it's literally... I knew it was leading to this bit. This is the bit I read out earlier, right? It's like the end of this chapter is the Palestinians, Iranians, and Syrians and the youth of the United States have a common enemy. It's Jesus, okay. Well, I mean, for a chapter called The Coming Revolt, it was a little disappointing overall, but, like... At least it got going at the end, I think.
Yeah.
I once made a video about Nick Fuentes, and he responded to it. And in that video, I defined fascism. He paused, and said, "But isn't that just the truth?"
Oh my God.
And I think about that lack of self-awareness. That is what I see in Caleb, because it's like this. What I'm saying isn't fascist because I believe it.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Right. I think we've probably wrapped things up. I just wanted to once again, for anyone who joined late, read the last page of the entire book. Which says, wait a second, it's got a run-on sentence. Oh, no, it doesn't. It's the result would be, this is him talking about his new America after he's done the coming revolt. He says, people in the United States who are awakening in these increasingly turbulent times must begin to envision a new country for themselves and their children. When they do this, they are not alone. Almost all of humanity is now rising with the same aspirations and fighting the same common enemy. Again, for people who joined more recently, that last page is just it. Like, a lot of the book is just repeating stuff that is, some of it's true. Some of it's just him being really boring. Not all of it is, like, as right out there as this. This is just, like... As many people said before, he's practically saying the 14 words here. Yeah. Any concluding thoughts? McDonald's.
I'm sorry I ever called this guy a fascist. I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah, truly, we've been debunked now. I guess one thing I bring up again is just like, he has this book up on $900 so that nobody can buy it. A thing I heard that was like, it wasn't from him, it was secondhand, was that like he had been told by some Jewish friends that it could be seen as anti-Semitic by some people, and that's why he
by some oversensitive people might read something into it. Yeah.
Well, the fact that he has Jewish friends completely shows that this could be anti-Semitic.
And I just I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I basically still think that the reason that he has it up on $900 is because this is what he basically fucking thinks and lays it really bare. And I said this earlier, right? Like, there's that clip of him where he's like, if I wanted to be popular, I would lie about what I believe. And it seems to me that he wrote a book about what he believes. And then he decided he wanted to get more popular. Mm-hmm. And so the book is $900, so no one can read it, if that's the reason. And now he's lying. There you go.
Yeah, I think that's you nailed it. Yeah.
Love Zero in chat says, could you explain the 14 words a little bit? I've heard people talk about it, but I did like more info. I just, like, in case other people don't know what we're referencing, there is a Nazi slogan called the 14 words, where Nazis basically espouse that they want a future for white children. This shit here about the envisioning a new country for themselves and their children as the, like, concluding note is like, he's going there. What were you going to say, Mildred?
Well, it's just, now that I know that when Caleb Maupin says imperialism, what he means is essentially like Zog, doesn't it kind of seem fucking weird that like all of the people he accused of being owned by this imperialist machine, and Israel was committing war crimes in Gaza, got together and raised money for the Palestinian people?
Yeah.
He did not?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if people have been paying attention to my Nightbot in chat, but this entire time I've actually been, it should have been. I don't know if it's been going. Shit. But anyway, regularly on my streams, my Nightbot shares like every 15 minutes a link to Medical Aid for Palestine, which is just so that people can have that option to donate on any stream I'm doing. And I've had that up since we all did those fundraisers. Yeah. So,
Thanks for being like quick on the draw there, Andrew.
yeah, thanks, Andrew. Yeah, I
There's so many Nazis in chat. That's so weird.
it is really weird. I mean, I guess
really strange.
it is bizarre. I guess one thing I could highlight is I already mentioned a bit of it, but we had. Hang on, is this showing up right in the stream? There it is. Yeah. This was a message that we had handled earlier. People defending Caleb and Peter. That was like an early on one there. And I think that's just like normal. That's just a very normal way for people who are real materialists and Marxists to behave.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Anybody want to plug anything? Point people towards anything before we wrap up?
I've got a thing. I'm next week is exactly a week from today is Black Ribbon Day in Canada, which is because Canada is a very normal country. We have a national holiday to commemorate the victims of communism. And I'm sure it'll be very shocking for you to learn that there's a lot of Nazis involved in that.
When I Google Black Ribbon Day, the first image that comes up is a swastika.
Yep. So, there's one of our deputy prime minister in Canada tweeted about how on Black Ribbon Day commemorating how Canada is such a wonderful place because her grandparents were able to flee persecution coming here. Her grandparents were Nazis. And she is now the deputy prime minister.
Jesus Christ.
They were basically like fleeing the Nuremberg trial. I mean,
the people
that they had like a magazine, but still, yeah, they were. So anyway, I'm going to be doing a charity stream for 24 hours next week to raise money for the victims of capitalism, in the form of raising money for survivors and families of the victims of the residential school system here in Canada.
So what is your Twitch?
Awesome.
We'll get it into chat.
Oh yeah, it's the Goat and the Goblin.
The Goat and the Goblin. Okay.
Yeah. My channel used to be called Black Goat 666, and my friend James Chill Goblin is the other person.
Okay, nice. So I'm just putting it in chat there. There we go. People follow the Goat and the Goblin, and you can take part in that stream. Anybody else?
Just wanted to add on to what Sam was saying. The Victims of Communism group, they also funded a monument in Edmonton that's literally to like SS division.
Oh yeah.
Yay!
There's a big Victims of Communism memorial that is one of the like you can like pay to have a name put on it. One of the names is one of the like bricks in the memorial is dedicated to the Vitezi Rend, which is the Hungarian fascist group that Sebastian Gorka was his family were members of. They were responsible for rounding up 400,000 Jews and delivering them to Nazi Germany.
Sorry about that. I just had a desktop thing started playing because I was looking for who we should raid after. Sorry about that. If you just repeat the last thing you're saying, sorry about that.
Sorry. It was Sebastian Gorka's family was a member of this fascist, a Hungarian fascist group called the Vitezi Rend,
right? And
they are responsible for rounding up 400,000 Jews and delivering them to Nazi Germany.
Jesus Christ. Well,
yeah.
Like I said,
come by the stream next week. If any of you wonderful people with no pressure, sorry for saying this like live on stream, but if any of you would like to be on it, we'd love to have you.
If I'm free that day, I'll absolutely do it. That sounds fantastic.
We're trying to get a bunch of cool people. We have if anyone listens to The Bottlemen, a cool Canadian leftist podcast. We're going to have the hosts of that. One of them is Riley from Trash Future, and the other one's Dan Beckner from Wolf Parade.
Sweet.
But,
Awesome.
Less meaningful and deeply important than Sam's plug, but Jess and I are on a podcast called Rolling with Rainbows, where we're playing some Call of Cthulhu at the moment. If you go Spotify or wherever, it's there. Go subscribe because it's a pretty good podcast. It's called Rolling with Rainbows. I'm gonna do a raid now. Who am I gonna raid? I'm gonna raid Laura. Okay. Thank you all for coming. This was fantastic, and let's just do. Once again, follow the Goat and the Goblin, and check out Rolling with Rainbows on Spotify. Okay.
Also, there's the YouTube version of the series that we're working on another episode of.
True. The podcast is an actual play one where we're playing the game. We're playing Call of Cthulhu. The YouTube is like we chat about tabletop stuff. Okay. Thank you for coming. Good night, everyone. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Night.